So I'm turning the audio back up in this game. Man. Partnering with a band is such a good idea, but I kind of wonder how many musicians they have. Do they have a looping pedal? Do they perform live? Because if you perform live, playing music like this would be really challenging, both for the musicians and for the audience. And that's not to say it can't be done, because a lot of musicians, especially modern composers and people who are making new music, is what it's called, they're not really interested in the accessibility of their music. They're not really interested in meeting anybody partway. And I have a friend who's actually a new music composer who disagrees with that philosophy, and has had some rather heated arguments with them. But it's not that in the case of this, unlike a lot of new music, it's not that the music itself is incomprehensible. I mean, I don't know for sure whether the thematic rambling that I did the first time I heard the song actually has any accuracy with regards to the game. But the challenge with this is it's so spare and repetitive and looping that the challenge is not listening to it in the first place. The challenge is listening to it live. What kind of a venue would you be in listening to this? Would you be standing? Would you be sitting? Would you be allowed to talk to the people around you? Would this be in the background? Would this be something you would be expected to focus on? How long would their set be? How many of them are there? Is there something else for you to look at if you are like me and have ADHD and can't just stand for a concert the whole time without needing something to do? I don't know. I'm curious because there are less accessible performers who can succeed very well live. Okay, so this one is specifically composed for a documentary. That's interesting, and that makes sense because this feels like something that you listen to while something else is happening over it. In your case, me running my mouth. How many people are in this band? I hope you don't mind we're taking a moment to listen to the music, but since I was just at a concert last week and that's why we missed, it's actually really funny that watching Evanescence and then watching Muse made me think of performing live with my band The Returners. During the times that we've played the same bill as the Proto Men, and how I'd like to think we're a pretty solid rock band, and we put on a pretty solid rock band show, and then the Proto Men come out and put on like an entire production. Obviously, there's a world of difference between my band and Evanescence, and a world of difference between the Proto Men and Muse. But it's the same sort of thing where they have you have a solid rock band performing a solid rock show, and then you have a production, like a multimedia extravaganza with costumes and characters and lights, pyrotechnics. They set things on fire. It was very exciting. So my band The Returners has played at PAX a few times. And I actually met one of my best friends because my former video game band opened for the Proto Men when they came through Austin years and years ago. So I've opened for them a few times. Okay, so they have 6 people live and then session musicians. That makes sense. A viola player and a cornet player. So that's a cornet. Okay. I am curious about listening to the non-soundtrack albums. Like, I'm very curious about this band. I find them really interesting because the kind of repetitive, minimalism of sorts of it is not necessarily something I would choose to listen to on its own. Like, this song, I think, might be a little dangerous for me to listen to out of context because it is deeply emotional, which is a thing I've talked about with there's some other songs, like Lower Meridia in Super Metroid. I actually made a cover of that on my YouTube channel to express why I can't just listen to that song for fun. The more typical material is an artsy sort of rock. Okay, I'd be curious. I'd be curious to see. And I also wonder, like, how old are they? Like, what generation are they? Are they millennials? Are they Gen Xers? I don't know. This sort of thing is very interesting. Trying to figure out, now that I've kind of witnessed kind of generations coming up, the generational divide about things, and what would have prompted the people who made this game to reach out to those musicians. Years active, 1995 to present. Okay, so they're Gen Xers. Okay, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Okay. Yeah, forgive me for that tangent, but given that the soundtrack is such a huge part of art, and it is clear that the creators of Disco Elysium picked the songs and the bands that they wanted to partner with, and very intentionally, I think it's kind of worth thinking about. Oh, hey, by the way, I saw a funny meme on the internet that had nothing to do with this game, but it got me thinking about something related to this game. It's a language thing. It's a words thing. I've tried to figure out what the heck is up with... Oh, no. This is Disco Elysium. I can swear on this stream. Okay, I've been trying to figure out what the hell is up with the name without spoilers, because I'm still pretty early on. Obviously we have disco, like disco music, disco dancing as an element of the world itself. And but Elysium, because Elysium is like, if we're using it like in a non-specific term, it can refer, like, it's like a form for heaven, but it's I believe specifically, I mean, it's from Greek mythology. So disco, the reason why, like, the meme, the funny joke was a funny Tumblr joke that it might have actually been a true story, I don't know, but about a school that had, like, I see, I hear, I learn as their motto, but then they had it in Latin, so they were told they had to change it, and it was I don't remember, it was something audio and then disco. Disco in that case meaning to learn. Audio, video, disco. Thank you, Chrono. I don't actually know if that's how Latin works or if that's a joke. I don't know, but it did get me thinking, because obviously disco having to do with learning is not an unreasonable to think might be actually correct, because we have the word discovery, which is to move towards learning, would be my guess, if we take that apart. If there is some truth to that, well, I think to move towards learning. No, because we've got traverse, which is travel. Oh God, I did not study Latin, or Greek, so most of what I know is just like little bits and pieces of the languages that I've picked up, mostly through my obsessive love of English. But does it have something to do with learning? Because, like, Disco Elysium, looking at it literally, when we have a dance, and we have, like, the place that heroes go when they die, like, there's some potential symbolism there, or perhaps the word disco has additional meanings beyond that. I don't know. I figure that it'll make sense. And it could just be that this is basically like disco music dance heaven or something like that. Perhaps that's what they were trying to build when the world decided to bring them down. Perhaps they were trying to build a perfect society based on disco. Disco Elysium, if you will. But I'm not sure. Because if disco does, as a term in Latin, does have something to do with, here we go again. It's gonna happen every stream. The start of every stream. I'm sorry. We're doing this. But yeah, so if disco is a word that means that means learning, there might be something there. Or not. Or not. It could just literally be disco as we know it as a genre. So it could be a fun play on the words. But we can't know for now, because I'm not very far in the game. The reason why I'm overanalyzing and thinking about that is because this is the kind of game that has a lot of things in it. You know? Lots and lots and lots of things. And so it's not unreasonable to think that could be something. So we're gonna put a pin in that. And we might come back to it. We might come back to it. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So disco music actually has a different origin. So did disco, the musical genre and the dance genre, come from discotheque? Meaning like the place in which dance happens, right? At some point, but it was originally a library of music. Oh, interesting. Okay, so in that case, if this is actually going to be a wordplay with double meaning in which it literally has to do with disco because we have our disco ass blazer, but also is pulling on Latin, then those will actually be two meanings of that word with two completely etymologically unrelated origins, which would be super interesting. That's so much fun. Language is neat. Language is so neat. One of the interesting things about English and its history as like 20 languages in a trench coat, or like it hunts other languages, it stalks them in the back alley, beats them up and takes their words, is that you'll have words from other languages that entered English at different points in their evolution and at different points in English's evolution, so they'll be both related and not. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. Language is really cool and interesting. And I send people down etymological rabbit holes sometimes. So, yeah. And also, yeah, bilingual puns are really fun and interesting. Sea Power, the band that did the soundtrack, has an album called Valhalla Dance Hall. Oh, that seems relevant. All right. So last time... Oh, well, hello, Aether. Well, welcome. Oh, there's a person over here I haven't talked to. There's a lot of people I haven't talked to. I got distracted. Last time we had some memorable conversations. I had some frustration, which I think I explained on stream, didn't I? Did I sufficiently explain on stream that the reason why I built my Disco Ocelot the way that I did was to minimize the frustration and discomfort that comes from me as a player coming to conclusions that my character can't come to? I hope I explained that on stream. I don't remember if I did or not. But if not, that's it. So we got to kind of witness that in action here. Okay, I did. Good, I'm glad. With this fellow right here, who's obviously a military plant of some sort trying to stir up trouble. And I do really wonder, and we will absolutely find out more about him. God, I want to go ask this guy about him. But we did finish the bullshit detector. Not bullshit detector. The bullshit compressor, sorry. That was a different thing. And so, like, I could complete the plot. I could further the plot. Or I could go and do everything else. So the tricky thing here is that this game has my least favorite thing in the entire world. But they have it for a good reason, and it's fine. It's fine. It's fundamentally like a game that is meant to deliver one playthrough experience at a time requires something like this. A time limit. And so I can't just go around doing literally everything but plot progression. So... Oh, hey, I just had a thought. Or no, that's an observation? A feeling. Alright, let's see what his brain says. The book is titled Man from Heimdall and the Wildfire. I don't actually know how to say that word, so I substituted a word that I've heard before. that is not spelled with a J. Hjelmdal, thank you. I recognize that that was not the right word to say. I was right about my French, by the way, in the previous stream. The word for stopping, to stop. My pronunciation may not be good, but I had the right word and I was correctly reading that sign. So there, person who told me I was wrong. My pronunciation is not good. My accent is not good. But I'm going to continue to do my best. And hopefully you will tolerate that. Or help me out if you can. With the understanding that there's only so much I can do. All right. Let's talk to this person who is wearing rain boots. They are tiny. Do you see how tiny this person is? Look at how little bitty. Like, Ocelot's pretty tall, don't get me wrong. We can't quite tell how tall he is compared to Kim because Kim refuses to stand straight. I'm not overly worried about time management. I'll figure it out. Yeah, the music is incredible. There's one more thing. Oh, also, as I was doing timestamps for the last video, I noticed there's this scratchy sound of like anytime there's like comments or anything like that, it's like somebody scratching down on paper, which is funny because Kim is the one who writes down, but we're getting Dude Man's thoughts. We're getting Ocelot's thoughts. So, yeah. I get the feeling that Kim is short, but also that Ocelot's really tall. We'll see. Let's talk this. I think this is a child, though. This person is really short. All right. I'm going to talk to this kiddo. Kiddo, maybe?
Hello, sir. Step right in. The store is open.
Oh, hang on. I'm going to have to move my camera. Sorry. A young girl. I was right. It is a kiddo. A young girl with chubby red cheeks waves at you, smiling. Her nose is also red from the cold. Oh, another friendly person. That's nice. All right. So I can either say hello, I am the law, or hi. I'm going to say hello politely. She could probably use a hat. It looks cold. Nobody here has a hat.
Are you interested in a new and exciting book?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. Crime, romance, and biographies of famous people. That's such a specific range of books. It's funny, I'm so used to superstores that encountering highly specialized stores is strange to me. Even though I feel like that's probably not, historically speaking, not that uncommon. Also, do let me know if the audio balance is working for you or not. So I can ask, okay, she stomps her feet to feel warmer. So I can ask, what kind of a store is this anyway? Is it okay if I ask you some questions or not really? Leave. I'm going to ask questions. Let's see. What kind of a store is this anyway?
It's a bookstore, sir. We sell books, postcards, and some board games. It's called Crime, Romance, and Biographies of Famous People. I
read that out loud to all of you already. Haha. All right. Books, postcards, and some board games. Because, like, if an individual chooses to open a store, they can open that store to be specialized on literally anything they want. As focused or random as they want. It can just be their curated stuff. It's when you're trying to have mass appeal and be like the one and only one-stop shop that you kind of have to have a more universal approach to things. So the tricky thing there is that you don't have a guaranteed audience if you specialize that much. And so if you're competing with the one-stop shops, you're going to probably have a hard time of it. But it's, I don't know. It's interesting. I think that it would be nicer if places could do more specialized things, you know? I think that it's much healthier for people to be able to just do the thing that they are interested in and get by, even if it's a modest success. Do your thing instead of trying to appeal to everybody. You can tell that I believe that if you look at the way that I do Let's Plays. on stream, because if I had any ability to or interest in going mainstream popular, I would have to take a very different approach to try to appeal to as many people as possible. Instead, like, I have a niche, shall we say, a niche approach to things. And so it does limit my channel growth, but it does mean that the people who find me and stick around are people that I'm more likely to actually be able to have a connection with, because we are connecting over something specific and personal rather than a general for everybody thing, if that makes sense. Yes, we must all consume product and make product. Yeah, well, that's kind of the conflict there, isn't it? Yes, isn't she adorable? I'm so excited to have set up the cat cam. I pet her. You can tell I pet her. She opened her eyes. No, but I mean, like, there's this pressure to try to achieve success that leads to making yourself a product and making the things that you make a product, trying to appeal to an audience. Commodification, is that the word I'm looking for? And you see that a lot in artists who are trying to make a living as artists, and so they have to create art for the algorithm. As the algorithm changes, the art they create changes, the way they approach it changes. You have writers who don't just write books anymore. They have to be able to be like online entertainers and hit all of the right points. And yeah, and like the hustle, the grind. I have friends who are full-time professional streamers, and you have like there at least, especially like the last time we talked about it, the pressure to stream every day was really intense, you know. There's a lot of this I don't know. I mean, I think in order to make it big, you do have to have some sort of character, something about you that appeals to people. So I'm not saying that people who are highly successful aren't, you know, unique and interesting people with their own compelling personalities that come across. But there is a different approach when you're trying to make something that will be appealing to people, or an algorithm, as the case may be. And it's just really frustrating to me, because I would love for us to be able to make things that we care about the way we care about them and reach the people who are a good fit for what we want to do. Basically, be your own flavor of weird. And then when people who are a similar flavor of weird or like that flavor of weird encounter it, you can have a connection. And that seems like that's worth a whole lot more. Maybe not enough to pay your bills, though. And you need to pay your bills. And so this kind of a shop is very much like that sort of thing, you know? Like, because capitalism is not things are for sale. Like, people could buy and sell things before capitalism as a philosophy and theory came into existence. It's a particular way of approaching profit and so on. My personal definition of capitalism is that it is a valuation of money over all else as the ultimate the ultimate I lost the word I was looking for. Yeah, no, but so there are, because people will sometimes be like, if you get rid of capitalism, then everybody gives away everything and nobody can own anything, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, well, no, you're just making up arguments. You don't know what you're talking about, and you're jumping to extremes. So there's a lot, and that's not necessarily to say like there's a lot of nuance and a lot that I don't know there. I'm not a social scientist of any sort. But you could still like have a shop where you buy and sell things and create art that you share with people and things like that, and do all of these things. I don't know. Anyway, all that to say, I wish that there were more stores like Crime, Romance, and Biographies of famous people in the world. I don't actually know if this bookstore actually sells crime, romance, and the biographies of famous people, or if that's just the name of the shop and it's been the name of the shop. We'll find out if I hit the button. But then I would have to stop talking about things. Yeah, no, there's a lot of binary thinking that has been that the American people in particular have been conditioned to think about. Oh my God, Scully, we are so slow. It is the slowest. We're sitting here having a little talk about capitalism and art. I think this is the 5th, actually. I think this is the 5th. We're now officially a week behind the Paper Mario 1000 Year Door stream. Yes. This is what I'm talking about when I say I know that I'm a very niche streamer. But I have no choice but to own it now. And it's not my fault. Disco Elysium gives me so much delicious stuff to talk about and think about. And none of it... Okay, some of it feels completely off topic. But a lot of it is... This is still vaguely on topic. I'm being vaguely on topic. For a Lauren, this is a relatively on topic stream. Sophie, are you going to turn around to the other side? What are you doing? Hold on. Tony. Hold on. All right. I'm trying to get my cat to settle back down so I can put the cat cam in a place that makes sense. Oh, she's watching the screen. Sophie, are you going to watch the screen? Here, hold on. My cat is interested. Hold on. I'm moving this around her. Look. She was having fun watching Paper Mario on Tuesday. So this is not related to the game. Hold on. I'm going to turn off Sophie's other cat cam for now. Oh, wait. Nope. She's settling in. She's settling in. Important. I'm a very professional streamer. Okay. There. We got a cat. Let me settle her on top of my audio thing. There we go. Okay. You have a cat. She's distrustful. All right. So let's find out from Annette if this actually is a shop that sells crime, romance, and the biographies of famous people, or if it used to be and they haven't changed the name, which would be telling and interesting.
Whoa. Hold your horses, little girl.
Oh no! Encyclopedia let me down. I failed to know what any of these things are. Or I could have the option. Look at this. What's interesting here. Okay, I will read this out loud because I've started reading text out loud. So I have 4 options. What is a book? What's a postcard? What's a board... ... game? And don't be ridiculous. I know all these things. So worth noting here is that number 4, don't be ridiculous, I know all these things, is not in quotes. That is internal dialogue. And I wonder actually, because that means that Ocelot is talking to himself here, or to his brain. And so that's really interesting because I kind of wonder, one of the things I've been wondering all along, and do not, I know you're tempted. Do not confirm or deny. I've been wondering how much of what he knows or doesn't know is affected by what answers I give. You know, if he is more or less amnesiac, based on how you play him, whatever answers you give is the truth. You know, so you kind of define the reality by giving those answers. So I've been having him tell absolutely everybody that he has no memories of anything. And they're like, oh dear, that's not good. But I've stopped doing that because it makes Kim sad. And we can't have that because he's Kim. And I've just kind of started wondering, like, well, can I just stop that? Can I try to sort of like reclaim and be like, no, actually, maybe I do know some things. And this is actually a perfect opportunity to explore that. Also, because our fellow here, I mean, I did the whole thing where he doesn't remember money or how money works. And like, I don't know, I feel like a book and a postcard at the very least. These are things you'd remember, sir. I'm pretty sure books have come up before. Maybe they haven't. It's a sort of care the people who made this might have put into. The money conversation was really funny. It was really interesting. It was so pathetic that even the guy who hates your guts starts kind of feeling bad for you. He still doesn't like you, but he's like, oh, that's sad. Huh. All right, so I'm going to actually choose 4. Don't be ridiculous. I know all these things, which theoretically, Ocelot is going to keep to himself. But for anyone who's tuning in for the first time, based on ridiculous, the first glance that I took at the cover art, I decided that we had Glasses Flashlight Man and Revolver Ocelot as the main characters of this game. And since Revolver Ocelot, our main character's name, do not tell me, has not been given to us, so he's continued to be Ocelot. If you're not familiar with that reference, it's a character from the Metal Gear Solid series. No, I don't think I want to ask this child what a book is. Ocelot might not know what a board game is, but I actually want to see Ocelot push back on his brain and insist that he knows these things. Maybe he doesn't, but I'm curious. I'm gonna kind of see how this goes. Also, there is a thing. I have another tangent about gameplay stuff, but I'll spare you at the moment. It'll pop up eventually, and then I'll go off on that ramble. There's another ramble just waiting to be unlocked inside of my brain. Okay, 4. Don't be ridiculous. I know all these things.
You're fooling nobody.
I'm literally gonna get into an argument with my brain. Oh my god. Okay, so my options are either 1, don't you sass me. Or 2, I said I know all of these things and I do, goddammit. Delightful. I'm glad that I correctly read the situation of what this dialogue option was going to be. I'm gonna go with 2. He's a little bit desperate. As much as I love Don't You Sass Me, I think that I like the desperate, like, trying to force it to be true, the willpowerness of, I said I know all these things, and I do, god damn it.
Sir, are you okay? You've been standing here silently for a while now.
Poor buddy. Her voice suddenly reaches your mind. Look, that is what I do, Annette. Okay, what kind of a store is this anyway? She's already answered that question. Is it okay if I ask you some questions?
Okay, sir. I'll try to answer any questions you have. I hope they're about books.
I like this child. I, too, like books. Okay. Well, I don't think she introduced herself. I'll say, what is your name?
My name is Annette, sir. My mum, her name is Plaisance. She owns the store. She's inside minding the register or organising the stock.
The girl gazes at the window, then suddenly jolts, her eyes wide, as if recalling something. Okay, Plaisance. I'm going to have a hard time with that, but I will do my best.
Feel free to step in and browse our wares.
Huh. That's interesting. Okay, so overanalyzing that, like, either she forgot that she's supposed to be convincing people to come in and buy stuff, or she got distracted thinking about something else and then remembered what she was doing here. I don't know which. Okay, so I can say, and you're standing out here in the cold because, or, okay, I guess I will. I'm going to ask her, and you're standing out here in the cold because?
I'm signalling that the store is open. Otherwise, people might not know. They'd miss out on the crime, romance, and biographies of famous people.
So, presumably that is actually what they sell. Good, good. That makes me happy. Okay, signaling that the store is open by standing outside. Good job, child. You could have an open sign.
A sudden gush of wind turns the pages of the books on the counters. She covers her face, smiling. But she's cold.
Books on the counters? I assume they're talking about the books outside, because there's books here, not in here. So, I don't know. Wait, do I have 2? Oh no, I still just have the 1 health. Okay. All right. So, I've never seen that kind of a display referred to as a counter before. I'm used to like a countertop being like a perfectly horizontal surface like you find in a kitchen. So, if these are counters, then that is a language difference, which this will happen. So that would be my confusion, because I'm like, it wouldn't make sense for there to be wind inside. We have not yet figured out the role of magic in this world, if it does exist. All right, so empathy, my favorite of all of the skills. So I can say, "You're cold. Can I help in some way? I should have a word with the store owner, maybe." Or, "Such a good trooper you are, already learning the value of hard work." And I can pat her on the head. Or, "I could help by brutally dismantling the free market." It's interesting that those are options that he has. Like, he's had a number of answers that have to do with dismantling the free market. Things that I don't usually associate with what a cop would say. So that's got to have gotten in there somewhere. I'm curious. I assume that probably will make more sense in a later playthrough or something like that, but either child labor is great or let us dismantle the chains on labor. It's maybe it says something to me that I don't feel that I need a characterization explanation for why number 3 exists, but I want a characterization explanation for why 4 exists. I mean, probably because I grew up in a capitalist society, so the idea of a cop, even if he's not a cop in the exact same sense that I'm used to, being very like, yeah, bye Saul, like that is a thing that I assume has been poured down people's throats. Oh, look, it's raining. However, those are not good options. You may not have noticed this, folks. I'm a meddler. So I'm going to choose option number 1. You're cold? Can I help in some way?
Kind of you to offer, sir.
She doesn't know what else to say.
What could you do to help her anyway?
The store owner is her mom. I don't think I need to have a word with her mom necessarily. Maybe. Oh man, I have such a bias towards book lovers that it did not even occur to me until just now that actually her mom could be kind of an awful person who sends her kid out in the cold weather and is like, you better go stand out there, young lady, you good for nothing, etc., etc., etc. I just assume, oh, there's a mother who owns a bookstore. She's probably a friend, but she might not be a friend. I don't know that. I just am more inclined to trust book people. Anyway, that's always fun. Yeah, we don't know if she owns this shop. I assume that she loves books because, as I've said, I don't think that crime, romance, and biographies of famous people is the sort of thing that you would pick if you just wanted to sell stuff. And I mean, there are other reasons, like, you know, it could be I inherited this massive collection of crime, romance, and biographies of famous people and I had to do something about it or whatever. I don't know, but she's a bookseller who perhaps owns the shop, could actually be a terrible person. It is possible that could happen. So we're going to go with 1 then. I should have a word with the store owner, maybe.
Oh, no, sir. I'm happy to help Mum by luring in customers. Besides, I have some hot juice in my vacuum bottle to keep warm.
Okay, that's good. Yes, she stands upright and smiles like a little soldier. I say, shouldn't you be at school or something?
I do my studies at home at the moment. I have to help Mum keep this place running.
Isn't going to school more important than this? Or, school is stupid, you're lucky not to be there. Or, What is school anyway? All right, well, I've already committed to not asking all of the questions. As tempting as it is to continue asking the very basics about how things work, the fact that I had a question immediately before this about school, you at least know something about school, Ocelot. I'm sorry. So I'm going to say, isn't going to school more important than this? Which is interesting because I don't actually know what role school plays in Revachol. I don't know if she does her studies at home at the moment. Like, do they require children to attend school? Like, we don't know. We don't know how that is. So I'm curious. There's a lot I don't know about how the world works, fundamentally. So let's find out. Isn't going to school more important than this?
Mum says it's necessary to do both because it builds character. Mum says a proper worker is dutiful. That's how you get ahead in life. You succeed.
Okay, so Mom is actually not an artist or a dreamer. That's, at least if she is, she's got a very thick business person streak through her. All right. So how's the business going?
Mum says it's peachy. She was a little afraid at first. There's talk about this house being cursed.
She looks over her shoulder. Amazing. Okay. I'm very curious because, again, I don't know. There's the possibility that there could be curses in this world. There could be magic in this world. I don't yet know. So that's interesting. Either that or maybe like it was like used as a front for something and then there's like all this weird stuff that's left behind. I don't know.
Behind her, the window has been boarded up. You sense the boards creaking, twisting for a second, and some kind of doubt in her tense shoulders.
So, hey, here we go. I knew this was going to get prompted. The thing, I mentioned that I had a thing I wanted to talk about very quickly. Somebody in a YouTube comment called me out, not unfairly, for how incredibly harsh I am with Inland Empire. Given that I, Lauren, I'm like, well, there's a possibility there could be magic in this world. We don't know for sure. Well, the world, like, let's keep ourselves open to possibility, things like that. To which I must say, yes, I am guilty as charged. It is deeply hypocritical for me to be as negative on Inland Empire as I am. I think part of it, because as a person in the real world, my Inland Empire is very active. That might be apparent if you've watched me stream. I'm always thinking about like what could be, and also I like to imagine things. I always played pretend as a kid and still have a little piece of that inside of me. I think that's really important to hold on to. So why am I so harsh on Ocelot's Inland Empire? Well, first of all, Ocelot needs somebody to protect him. And I feel like his Inland Empire is not to be trusted. And secondly, his Inland Empire is very different from mine. And so it doesn't feel like in line with the way that I have those things. So I think that it's less likely to, like, it didn't necessarily immediately register. Like, I think that if his Inland Empire felt more like my Inland Empire, we would all be in trouble. Because I'd be picking one of those options. Yeah, no. Inland Empire is the reason I have high points in Inland Empire, and that's why we mini golf. Anybody who's watching me for the first time, that is our term for my wild speculation about what's going on in games. Yes, no, mini golfing is definitely part of my Inland Empire. So I fully recognize that there is this very strange issue. Why am I so harsh on the thing that I have the most points in? Well, it's complicated. So I'm gonna try to have a slightly opener mind. I'm gonna have more openness to Inland Empire, a little bit. I think it goes a little too far in ways that feel wackadoodle. But this is not really wackadoodle. This is trying to like imagine and read into things a bit. I'm gonna ask, cursed in what way?
Cursed in the way that makes them say that no business has ever really thrived here, sir. That they all go...
She's looking for the right word. I can say bankrupt, ass up, or say nothing. I will try not to swear in front of the child. So I'm gonna say bankrupt.
Exactly. But we've been doing fine so far.
So I can either say, I don't think curses are real, or this sounds rather serious. I should probably look into this. Narrow your eyes and look through the creaking boards on the window. All right, I'm sorry, but given some of Ocelot's previous dialogue options and the fact that he does actually seem like he's a goof, even if I try to keep him in check, I'm gonna meddle like crazy. Yes, that's right, Serious Inc. That is interesting as a curse, so I'm gonna choose that I should look into this.
We can go into the bookstore and ask about the case, but I don't see much more to look into here.
Okay, I'm sorry, I assume this is not a default thing, that this is not just how Ocelot is, but this seems to be a recurring dynamic. Ocelot goes just a little too far with like his wild shenanigans, and Kim is like, we have a job to do, sir. I love Kim. Kim did not level up Inland Empire. No, that's true. Wag Shadow, thank you for subscribing, friend. Welcome. Welcome. Okay, so the lieutenant made a note in his notebook. I'm curious what that note is.
Yes. Please do also look at our wares inside. The postcards and board games are there, sir.
So I can say, what do you know about the other failed businesses? How does this curse manifest itself? Or, enough about the curse for now. I'm going to ask, what do you know about the other failed businesses? I'm curious about this.
Nothing really, sir. Mum doesn't allow me to sneak around in the back rooms or the cellar. I don't really know what's there.
She looks a bit disappointed. How does this curse manifest itself?
It does not manifest itself in any way. It does not exist. I liked it better when we were talking about whether it's appropriate to stand out in the freezing weather.
But Kim... Kim is team mom. Somebody's got to be. I liked it better. Amazing. I'm sorry, Sophie. Sophie does not approve of me making all this noise. It's okay, baby. It's okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, you can admire this kitten. Oh, man. Thank you, Wag Shadow. Well, I'm glad you could drop by a little bit. I assume it's because of daylight savings. So by all means, do not wreck your sleep schedule, but it is nice to have you here. Welcome. We are always happy to have lurkers. We're always happy to have folks drop by. She is look at this excellent cat. Yeah, if you want to talk about spoilers, join our Discord and jump into Stream Spoilers. There is Stream Spoilers is a channel. There is a thread that is specifically for discussing me playing this, and I don't go there, so you don't have to worry about spoilers. So you can go there and do that. All right. So I can either say, but Kim, the plasmic manifestations, or fine, I'll show you, which feels in line with something I've said before. So I'm going to go with number 2 instead of plasmic manifestations. 'Cause I don't know. It's just going to be a but. Oh, good. I'm glad that the spoiler channel is being a good peanut gallery.
Anything else you wanted to talk about, sir?
The girl looks back and forth between you two. She's like, what is going on? Does not know how to deal with grown-ups arguing like this. So I'll say enough about the curse for now.
Maybe I can tell you about some of our books instead.
Annette looks at your shaved, prickly chin. It distinctly contrasts with the oily mutton chops that surround it. That's such an interesting moment for them to put something about your physical description in. It's very strange. It's an interesting decision because we're in our own head, and this is kind of a peek outside of us. It's interesting. Okay, so let's see, what is this crime business?
Crime fiction is about murders or burglaries or things like that, and the work of a policeman or a private detective who's trying to solve a crime and catch the criminals.
Oh my god, okay, so I can say, wait, not crime fiction. I need to know what crime is. Can you imagine what poor Kim would say? I know that you would be fitting if you said that, sir. Kim would indeed suffer psychic damage. Why would anyone want to read about crime? Or, okay, I get it. Crime, murder gets the people going. I'm going to say, why would anybody want to read about crime? This is also something I do not understand in real life. I do not understand. I know that people love listening to true crime podcasts, but like, I do not get it, and I never will. So, all right. Why would anyone want to read about crime?
It's exciting to people, I guess. They get to imagine dangerous things, and it's kind of like a puzzle, where you can guess who the criminal is, or how the good guys are going to catch him.
Ooh. Oh, it's commentary. This is what we're doing, playing a game, doing literally that. Gasp, 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 gasp. Ha. Huh. That's very clever. All right. Very meta. Very meta. We will, in fact, try to guess who the criminal is and how the good guys are going to catch him. Or it's going to wind up being complicated, and there's probably going to be conspiracy, and probably the person who committed the crime is not actually going to be the big bad. But we'll find out. I have some crazy mini golfing that is not necessarily justified by what we've seen in the game so far. That's fine. It's fine. All right. So I can say I'm a policeman myself, by the way.
You don't look much like a policeman.
She examines you as if to find something policeman-like. I don't look policeman-like. That is, in fact, something Lauren, have complained about. Until realizing that these are not, in fact, police. They are militia. And so, I don't know. It has yet to be seen whether everybody in Ocelot's precinct wears Disco Blazers and everyone in Kim's precinct wears super cool biker jackets. We'll find out. So I can say, well, what does a cop look like then? Or, okay, then maybe I'm not a policeman or should stop being one. Sophie is back to watching the game. I'm sorry, Sophie, but there's like no action. Okay, I'm gonna hide the cat cam. Yes, golfer. Golf early, golf often. Yes, I have lots of golfing. There's so much, I have so much pointless speculation about things that probably don't even matter. But we don't know what matters. Oh, you know what matters in this game. I don't. So everything could be. All right. Okay, what does the cop look like then? I'm curious because if she is getting her sense of what cops look like based on books from other countries in which policemen have uniforms, that'll be a very, very different thing than what we have here. And so I wonder, like, did her family, or maybe her family moved from another country where they have a proper police department? I'm gonna pick that option. What does the cop look like then?
Didn't mean to offend, sir. Sorry, sir. It's just that you don't look like Dick Mullen.
She points to a book cover on which you see a strapping Vespertine officer. He stands grimly over the body of a dead woman. Vespertine. I think that's a place, but I'm not sure. All right, I can pick. I used to be exactly like that Mullen guy. Then I decided to live a little. Or, you know, nobody actually looks like the guy in the picture. That's just a stupid fantasy of a man. Or, it's not your body that's important in police work anyway. It's your... Or, wow, look at the guy. I'll never be as good as Mullen. Or, I actually had other questions. So you cannot be ridiculous here if you want to. I have to pick a ridiculous option. I can't just move on. I'm going to pick number 3, which makes the most sense with my fellow here. It's not your body that's important in police work anyway. It's your brain. Mine's not doing so hot.
Head, yes.
No, it's your soul. Your blue soul.
Oh, shove it, authority.
Not head, child. Heads.
I did not understand what drama was going for until I saw the options. So authority and drama are fighting. I wonder how often this is going to happen. Like if a bunch of your different skills all roll to see who comes up and starts arguing. Let's see. So you can either pick soul. That Mullen guy looks like a Hampelman. Who could respect that face? It's not even drawn correctly. He lacks soul. I'm sorry, I'm just reading my things with my little accent here. Or flexibility. There are millions of different people out there and you have to get into their heads. Sometimes you gotta be the killer to catch the killer. Oh boy, thanks drama. That's drama. So you can either choose to side with authority or side with drama here. So purely as a matter of principle, I feel like I need to not side with authority because I don't ever want to listen to authority. Oh man. So flexibility. There are millions of different people out there and you have to get into their heads. Sometimes you gotta be the killer to catch the killer. Gosh, Ocelot, are you actually secretly the person who did the killing? I don't think they're gonna do that one. That's not the one I think is gonna happen. I think it's going to have something to do with layers of basically political intrigue between the groups of people that we will uncover as we go. But I'm gonna go with flexibility. Not literally be the killer. Thinking like the killer to catch the killer. We're gonna go with that. I'm wondering if this is gonna affect my playthrough down the line. I don't know.
Isn't that very dangerous?
She examines the picture of Dick Mullen. So I can say, policemen live and breathe danger, little girl. Mullen obviously lacks that chameleonic skill.
Unlike you, sir. He's just a fictional character. He's no match for you.
See, it's funny on a meta level because he is a fictional character. We're all fictional characters here. I'm not a fictional character. I'm a real person, but you have no evidence that I'm real. I could just be a virtual fake Lauren with a fake cat. She's very cute. She's watching the screen. I don't know what she finds so interesting about it, but like this cat is just engrossed. She's really excited. So I gained experience for picking something between. I think that was an encounter. There's like a random encounter between my skills, and I picked an answer and got experience, which also makes me think that picking that answer is actually going to affect something later on. Maybe it'll flag something. I'm curious. I'm curious. She's playing along. I don't know that she's trying to sell things. I think she's found a weird grown-up that she's playing along with.
Maybe you can show me some real police work, sir. Like in the books.
I'm really excited about this. Hold on. Hi, Ag Milky. Thank you so much for subscribing, friend. I appreciate it. I do think Sophie likes the weather effects. All right. I'm so excited because I have a new option here. Okay, I'm going to deduce something now. Composure. Saw she's cold, afraid of the curse. Okay. I'm not quite sure why this is a thing, but it's a thing. Okay. I could pick literally any other option, but I'm gonna pick that one. I'm really excited about that. Okay. I'm gonna pick this. I could go, because I now have another option that says, you can stop calling me sir. I am but a working man. But I'm gonna choose this one because I can't resist. I'm sorry. I'm way too excited about this.
The girl keeps her hands folded, hidden. Why is that?
Oh my god, I'm really excited. Well, thank you, Milky. I'm sorry. I'm too excited about this. I can't read. I will try to get the VOD up tomorrow. First thing. I'll do my best. I've been trying really hard. Look at me. Given the trouble that I've had in the past getting myself to put streams up quickly, I've been doing pretty well with Disco Elysium. All right. I love deduction and thinking about things, overthinking things, noticing little details. I love this. So, okay, so I can say, hey, why do you keep your hands folded?
What do you mean, sir?
She looks wary.
She knows where this is going.
I can either say, you don't need to be worried, I'm here to help, or you can show them to me, or actually I'd rather not deduce anything. Every time I deduce, people get hurt. I'm gonna be, I mean, you know what I'm gonna pick. You don't need to be worried, I'm here to help.
She looks around anxiously. Her hands remain folded in front of her. She doesn't want to show them. The lieutenant stands by, looking at the two of you with little interest.
That's because Kim doesn't understand.
A facade of true professionalism. He is far more intrigued by the situation than his poise reveals.
Okay, good. I was gonna say, if Kim understood, he would care a lot. But he's trying not to draw attention to it. He's letting me do my thing. Because if he intervenes right now, it might go wrong, but I'm getting somewhere. Oh, Kim. I love you, Kim. I don't know you very well, but you are a good man. Yeah, no, I would have been really surprised if Kim had noticed something was wrong and didn't care. So I'm going to say it's okay.
She brings out her reddened hands. Her nails frayed, nearly chewed down to the flesh.
My fingers frequently bleed, so you can say you bite your nails.
And you knew this from me keeping my hands folded?
Okay. She shoots you a suspicious glance. So I can either say yes, or there were a few other hints. Or it's super simple for a detective such as myself. Let's see. There were a few other hints, I think. No? No. I mean, she does seem like she gets anxious. And it's cold out, but she doesn't like have her like hands in her pockets or anything like that. So yeah, there are some hints out there. Sophie's really enjoying this falling rain. That's interesting. I'm gonna go with there were a few other hints.
Well, that proves nothing. Anyone could do an easy deduction like that.
Oh shoot, that was the wrong answer. I should have just said yes. Oh well, that's fine.
She actually is impressed. This is more like a defensive reflex.
Okay, thank you, suggestion. Oh man. So I have the option to I can either say want more, but I can figure out why you bite your nails. I got a few reasons in mind. Or, you think so? Fine, do better. Deduce something about me. Both of these sound really interesting. Really interesting. Oh man. Do I meddle with this child? Or do I let this child try to figure something out about me? I mean, I want to know more about me. But I'm not sure a child could do that. Let's see. I'm probably going to go with one. Want more? Bet I can figure out why you bite your nails. I got a few reasons in mind.
She nods, half provocative, half enthusiastic.
Okay. 1, you're uptight because of your mother and the pressure she's putting on you. 2, rats have been nibbling on your fingers, child labor, and dismal working conditions. 3, chewed on nails means you're recycling your body material. Or 4, and it's an intense dedication to the way of business. There are no riches without personal sacrifice. Okay, so there's the obvious choice, which is number 1. There's 2, which is kind of paranoid and weird. There's 3, which is really weird, and then 4, which is just plain wackadoodle. So I'm gonna go with the obvious choice, which is clearly correct. Unless this game is going to do a gotcha. Like, that's the obvious choice here. Based on exactly the information that we've gotten from talking to her. So we're going to do that. We're going to do 1. You're uptight because of your mother and the pressure she's putting on you. The little girl's going to disagree because she doesn't think that her mom's putting pressure on her, because she thinks that everything her mom's doing is justified because she's a small child and has not yet realized that adults can be mistaken. Potentially. We'll see. I'm overthinking the overthinking. This is what you're here for, folks.
Maybe so, sir. Okay, I know it's a bad habit, and I shouldn't.
Okay, so dismay flickers in her eyes. Poor kid. Okay, yeah, so that is true. So I can either be goofy, cartoonish character, and say, either way, another ace deduction by the number 1 detective in town. Or I can say, I hope this entertained you. Which seems like a sweeter thing. I actually wonder whether Kim is observing me more than observing her. I wasn't sure if it was just going to be bitten nails. I thought she might actually have had like her. Sometimes when children are reprimanded in old settings, like in previous decades, like they would get like hit across the hand with rulers in school and things like that. And I was thinking she might be hiding her hands for a reason like that, which is why I got concerned. But biting her nails because she's really anxious because her mom is crazy is a little less concerning, but still concerning. But I'm going to say I hope this entertained you, and hope that he means it seriously, that he delivers it seriously, because that could be a kind thing to do. Something fun.
It was okay, sir.
She's still got a rebellious streak. She enjoyed it, whatever.
There's more that can be achieved here. Ask her to do the same.
So I can either say, you think so, fine, do better, deduce something about me, or that was a masterclass move. Whatever, kid, I don't need to prove myself to you. Okay, so even if I wasn't curious and my brain is like saying, like, have her do some investigating, I can't have him be rude to this child. So I'm gonna go with deduce something about me. This could be dangerous. I might sustain psychic damage from doing it, but I'm taking that chance.
You're quite sober.
She snaps back quickly. That's an interesting choice.
The lieutenant does not flinch at the comment. He does not flinch even a single bit. He is intensely not flinching. It takes effort.
Oh, Kim. I love you, Kim. Okay, so I can either say, wait, how do you know I'm usually not? Or, and I'm having a grand time. Or, I am also sad and my head hurts. You know, I am all for pouring out your heart and opening up about your feelings, sometimes to total strangers, but do not burden a child with that. So I'm going to ask her to deduce. How do you know I'm usually not? And she's going to talk about my physical appearance. And it's a hot mess. It's going to hurt. I hope I don't take psychic damage for this, but I'm picking it.
Because you usually aren't.
Yeah, because I asked, wait, how do you know I'm usually not? And she says, because you usually aren't. That must mean that she's met me before, actually. Because she sounds very serious when she says that. Like, she's just, like, stating a fact that she knows. She's met me before. I have been in the hospital for 3 days, yeah. Let's see. Okay, well, she's sad. Am I having a grand time? No. She took the wind right out of my sails. So we're going to go with I am also sad and my head hurts.
I'm sorry, sir. I hope things get better soon.
She looks you in the eye, a gleam of sympathy on her face. Yeah, okay. That's fair. That's just honesty in this case. She's a sweet child. I hope I can do something to help her.
There she stands, swaying on her feet, assaulted by the early spring breeze. She smiles at you. The whole situation suddenly feels familiar, somehow.
Do I have a child of my own? I don't know. So I have another option, 6, suggestion, medium, 11. What are you missing here? Why does this feel familiar? Yeah, let's dig into this. This is a white check. You may retry it. All right. Let's see how this goes.
Because you know each other. She's been talking to you so openly because you've talked before.
Okay, yeah. All right. They do a good enough job of setting things up that you can figure stuff out like this. See, I assumed that it was obvious from what had just happened that they'd met before from the way she said that. And therefore I assumed that that was not going to be the thing that I had to figure out. But apparently it was. So, all right. So I can either say, hang on, so you know me, we've met before, or on second thought, maybe I shouldn't remember. Maybe there's a reason I forgot. Yeah, there is a reason why you forgot, and I'm probably going to regret this and take psychic damage at some point. However, this child, I'm going to ask about this. So let's go with number 1. So we've met before. Is suggestion not your ability to... What is suggestion? What is the description of suggestion again? It's true. I am slightly better off than Ocelot. But I've tried to make it such that we're not. Because, like, I thought suggestion was your ability to suggest to other people. But this seems like this is, like, talking to you about things. Oh, I can look at my skills? Oh, I can't. I can't. Can I? Active thoughts, alter dialogue options. Oh! Thought bonuses differ for research and completion. Substances can be administered during dialogue. Tools are context sensitive. Equip them before use. Time passes when picking new dialogue options. Oh! So I wonder if that means that you can go back and explore old conversations and not spend time on that. Interesting. Gain experience by completing tasks or by exploring. Leveling up grants you skill points. Skill checks explore options or level up to try again. Click it. Oh, right. This gets partially cut off by my toolbar, so I forget that it's there. Is it this one? It's this one. No, that's my thought cabinet. Okay. This is not right. It's not my journal. Oh, it's the rectangles. Okay. All right. Suggestion. Charm men and women. Play the puppet master. A soft power approach. If people think they want what you want, you've already won. Implant ideas into the minds of others. That's what I thought it was. At high levels, suggestion makes you affable to everyone and more resistant to their charm in turn. But it can make you slimy. And you'll know it even if no one else does. Okay. Interesting. Okay, yeah. So because you're good at persuading other people, you can kind of see through when other people are doing that to you. So it gives you resistance to that. It's interesting that suggestion is the one, basically that manipulation is the skill that lets me be able to tell. Not empathy. That's interesting. All right. So I'm going to ask, we've met before.
Yes, I stand in this spot all the time.
She sways back and forth on her feet.
You've been running around all week without your shirt on, sir. Telling people about being a star or something. don't really understand who those stars are.
Okay, maybe I am that former disco legend that went missing. All right. So I'm going to ask, did I ever talk to you?
Of course, you've stopped by a few times. You certainly look better than the last time I saw you.
Oh my god. So I can either say, I doubt that. What do you mean better? I look like shit. Or 3, thanks, I'm trying. Honestly, the 3 is the saddest and the sweetest option. None of these answers are anything but self-deprecating and self-loathing, and that's really sad. He has this bravado that he puts on to pretend to think highly of himself, and it's extraordinarily over the top to a ridiculous degree because ultimately, fundamentally, it's not true. I think he's trying. I do think he's trying. It's sad and it's sweet and it's genuine and honest, but I feel like that is most in keeping with the rest of his interaction with this little girl. I think she deserves that honesty, so I'm going to do that.
Yeah, I can see. You don't have party eyes anymore.
Oh no. Party eyes. Oh no. Okay, electrochemistry is going to explain to me what that means.
Party eyes. Yes, of course. That makes sense.
The lieutenant slowly, ever so slowly, realizes something. All right, electrochemistry, please tell me what drug my character was doing so that I know what this means. I don't have a lot of points in electrochemistry. That's a body option, and I'm bad at those. I think that's a body option. Yep. It's a body option, so I'm not so great at it. See, now I can pull up my stat sheet anytime. It's dangerous. Don't worry, I'll forget that I can do this soon. I have a 2 because I think those are my. Is that my disco ass blazer? I think it might be my disco ass blazer. Oh, my pants. Oh, it's not my blazer. Okay. Yes, if I really wanted to, I could wear my gloves and have that bonus here. But I'm not going to game the system like that. Sorry. I don't even know if I can change inventory here. No, I do not have my fingerless gloves on. I have my stupid gardening gloves.
I'm not surprised children have seen you running around with party eyes on, he thinks. Not at all.
Okay, Esprit de Corps is not pleased. Is reading his disapproval. Party eyes, I can ask out loud with emphasis.
You know, like a cat in the dark, all big and wide-eyed. It certainly looks odd on a man.
I know that there are drugs that make your pupils hugely dilated, so yeah, it's not so great.
The swiveling eyes of a loony drug addict. That is what she meant. You were probably gurning too.
I don't know what gurning means. I don't know if I'm supposed to know what gurning means. But I'm glad composure is here to explain this to me instead of electrochemistry. Oh, clenching your teeth. Okay. All right. So I've been doing drugs, not just drinking. All right. That would explain it. It's like combining drugs and alcohol seems like a really bad idea. Which is probably the point. Buddy, I'm sorry.
Fuck yeah. You should get some party eyes right now. Snap those sequins on you, boy.
Alright, electrochemistry is here. Just barely. But electrochemistry is here. I love that these are conversations that I can have with myself. Does that mean I've been partaking in narcotics? Or the girl doesn't know what she's talking about. Forget about this. No, I'm gonna be in shock about the fact that I've been partaking in narcotics. The phrasing, partaking in narcotics is really funny. It is really, really, really funny. I'm sorry. Especially in contrast to electrochemistry and its party boy way of speaking. I think it's really funny. So I'm gonna go with partaking in narcotics. Scandalous. Never.
Oh, baby, that's not what you have to worry about. Worry about the important thing.
All right. Electrochemistry is trying to get me off the trail. Because electrochemistry can sense from the tone of my shock and horror that I'm not going to be open to doing drugs immediately. So it's going to wait. See if it can get me to lower my guard. I'm sorry, electrochemistry, but I'm going to try to protect this man from you to the best of my abilities. However, he is an alcoholic, so it might be a bit tricky, but I will do my best. All right, so I can say either, so why didn't you tell me you knew me to begin with? Or, thanks, I've learned something about myself today. All right, I'm going to ask her, and she's going to probably be like, well, because you're sober and you weren't then. So I figured you might have forgotten. I don't know. All right, 1.
I didn't know I had to do that.
So I can either say, I don't really like this detective deduction game anymore, or thanks, I've learned something about myself today. Either one of these will conclude the conversation. I'm sorry, Annette. All right. I think I'm going to say thanks, I've learned something about myself today.
I'm glad I could help you, sir.
All right. I'm not done with talking to this child. I'm going to ask, what is romance? See what other lines of conversation I can get. Oh, man. I'm just going to spend the entire day just talking to children.
It's the type of book where there's a rich lady and she has to choose between the good man and the bad man.
Oh, no. Don't let the romance writers of America hear you talking like that. Will not do. She smiles at the thought, perhaps imagining herself in that situation. There's a bunch of different kinds of romance novels with their own norms. And it's actually a perfectly decent and respectable kind of popcorn entertainment. The reason why people make fun of it so much is, can you guess why? Can you guess why romance writing in particular gets a worse rap? Why we are more likely to make fun of that than we are crime fiction or things like that? It begins with an M and ends in misogyny. Yes, because it's popular with girls. It's got girl cooties. Things that women like are inherently taken less seriously than things that men like. And that's just an unfortunate reality of our society. It's very frustrating. And it's something to interrogate within ourselves as much as we can. Cat. Because you'll find it, even if you consider yourself a feminist, as I do, that there will be things that you don't take as seriously, and things that people will dismiss. I really enjoyed Bon Jovi for a long time. I associate Bon Jovi with an X now, so I don't have the same love. But like Bon Jovi is a good fun time. But there's a lot of people who will, and I also really like the Goo Goo Dolls. They're one of my favorite bands. And in both of those cases, people will criticize them and put them down and say they're trash and they've sold out because they started making music that appealed to a female fan base to some degree. And that means that you can't take them seriously. And yes, the Twilight books, the treatment of Twilight versus like any other, silly childish book series. It's really telling. It's because it's something that teenage girls like, and teenage girls are like the demographic to take the least seriously. And yeah, Bon Jovi, women want to throw their panties at him a lot. And their music, they've got a lot of love songs that girls like. Yeah, like Twilight is flawed as far as I can tell, having only read a few pages of it and summaries of it. But there's a lot of flawed things out there. Hunger Games is flawed. And it stars a girl. but it has violence, so boys can like it. So there's a lot of immediate gut check or gut reaction negativity towards things. And I think it is worth keeping an eye on your own feelings and reactions to things, and just occasionally just sit there and ask yourself, like, where is this coming from? Really? And sometimes there might be a really unfortunate thing lurking in there, but don't feel too bad, because like literally, like, we've been brainwashed since birth in the society that we live. So it makes sense, and it's not your fault. Just pick yourself up and try to do better next time. That's all. And you know, fantasy, I graduated with an MFA in creative writing as a person who writes fantasy and science fiction at a program that that offered a special concentration in popular fiction, but with other people taking other like literary fiction and nonfiction, creative nonfiction and things that went to school with me. And there were other programs that I applied to and spoke with about whether I could be okay as a writer of literary fantasy. I concluded I couldn't. So I absolutely get that. But in the case of romance writing, romance is even more mocked than other genres of popular fiction. And I say this as somebody who writes popular fiction and has had many conversations over the years with other writers, with other readers, with people of all ages and all backgrounds. It's a thing. But yeah, romance is not any more ridiculous than like Westerns or detective novels or anything like that, you know? So, all right, let's get back to the game, shall we?
Or there could be a story about a poor lady getting a rich man. It's about man and lady business, sir.
I mean, when we're talking about a heteronormative society, I will say that man and lady business, that's a decent summary of romance right there, though. And yes, romance is massively more profitable than like anything else out there. And romance writers and romance readers, don't mess with them. Like, periodically, somebody will try to go swinging at the romance writers online. And everybody who's involved in any form of popular fiction or anything like that we'll just pull up our popcorn and wait. Do you have any idea how many lawyers write romance novels? A lot. Do not mess with the romance writers. They will get you and you will lose. It's really kind of hilarious. All right. Okay, so what about a poor man getting a rich lady? Or what about when both of the men are bad? Or what about when everyone is poor? Or what about a book where the man and lady business doesn't work out at all? Or that's enough romance for me. I had other questions. So I'm gonna pick an answer here. Pick a question. What about when everyone is poor? What about when both of the men are bad? Let's see. You know what? Start with Aladdin. Number 1, a poor man getting a rich lady.
It happens, but usually the guy gets rich in the process. Or should actually be rich himself, but has lost his family property unjustly, like during the revolution or something.
It's interesting, and again, like, here's the revolution just very, very neatly slipped in there, just a tiny bit of world building where it would appear in natural, normal conversation. This is how you avoid, as you know, bobbing your world building. A+. I see.
Those are unhappy books for most of the pages. People sad about what they have lost. But then it all turns out just fine in the end.
It would be really interesting, actually, if there's characters whose backstories, or stories that we encounter in this game, like, fit a bunch of these books that we're hearing about. But yes, you have to have a happily ever after ending. An HEA. Or if you write a book that purports to be a romance novel and it does not provide a happily ever after, you have broken the contract. And will never be forgiven. The degree of pain and suffering getting there is variable depending on which particular flavor of romance you're getting into, and you should communicate that clearly to your readers from the get-go. But you have to have a happily ever after ending, or the romance community will not be thrilled. I'm just talking about romance as a modern marketing genre of fiction, as opposed to romance stories or the history of it. Yes, Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy. Yes, it's not a romance novel. All right. So what about when both of the men are bad?
These are not very common. You can't have a choice between bad and bad. Nobody wants to read a story like that.
What if it's written really well?
Well, maybe then it's fine. Maybe if the lady then decides not to pick either because she doesn't need a bad man. Yes, that would be interesting.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I can get behind that. All right. What about when everyone is poor?
That's really not a proper romance story. That's more like everyday life.
Sometimes you have to write about real life things. Or, yeah, poor people are boring. Let's go with number 1 here.
Not in romance books, sir. These are about nice and pretty people, and everyone is happy in the end.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It has to be a happy ever after ending. This is just what romance novels do. This is how they are. That is the rule. If you write a romance novel, you are promising your reader. It's like reading cozy mysteries. There are certain things you go to that wanting a certain kind of experience. And the readers want a certain kind of experience, and you have to deliver that experience, or you are not doing the thing you said you were going to do. And it's fine. It's fine. That's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a thing to be aware of. So what about a book where the man and lady business doesn't work out at all?
I haven't read many of those. Maybe you should ask Mum.
Yeah, you think she has one about an excruciatingly painful breakup? Maybe. I'm curious. We'll see. Hey, Josmea. She's clearly read a lot of romance novels. You probably shouldn't be reading this many romance novels when you're this little. However, most romance novels are relatively clean and not unwholesome, as long as you kind of understand that there's like patterns of stories. And if you've read enough of them and have a cynical selling mother, perhaps that cynicism will suit you well to understand that this is what happens in the books and it's not necessarily a pattern you should look for in real life. But I, on the other hand, when I was in middle school, so like 12, my mom gave me The Mists of Avalon by Marion Zimmer Bradley to read. It's not a book for kids. So, just saying. Let's see. Yeah, but they're not usually, like, romance novels aren't usually lewd, and they don't usually contain content like what Marion Zimmer Bradley writes. She had some things. All right, let's ask about, you think she has one about an excruciatingly painful breakup?
I don't think it's a romance story if the main characters break up, though.
She pauses, trying to figure out the appropriate answer. She's trying to figure out how to let me down. So I can either say, no, think about it. One where they plunge into a torrid spiral of pain and recrimination, only it's really long and drawn out. Scarred for life, phantom limb. Or, okay. The context, the contrast. The contrast is really interesting here. There are romances that have explicit scenes. There absolutely are. You just have to know which imprint you're reading. Because if you are in the wrong imprint, that's a problem. No, it's true. Look, okay. One of my gigs is I do audiobook proofreading. That's one of my freelance gigs that I've had over the past few years, off and on. So I've done a few romance novels, and I have friends who are romance novelists. So I'm not like in the middle of it, but I've read about it, I've heard about it, I've talked about it. I've professionally had to indicate when the audiobook narrator mispronounced a word during a sex scene, so I know that they do in fact happen in romance novels. Just you have to know the imprint you're reading. That's very important. And yes, they are somewhat formulaic. Formulaic isn't quite the right word. Some of them are formulaic. In other cases, it's just that there's rules. You have to know when a person goes to read a romance novel, they select one based on what they're in the mood for. It's kind of like how on AO3 we have a lot of tags. It's useful. So yeah. All right, so I can either overshare to this child about my messed up life, letting Kim hear about perhaps, because Kim is a smart man who can deduce things. Kim will be like, that's why you did all the drugs and the drinking. So that could be useful. And this kid will be like, what the heck, man? That sounds bad. I don't think they write books about that, sir. I think I'm going to pick that answer because we've kind of been going down this way. Even though it takes a lot of energy. Let's go with the long wackadoodle answer.
No, I don't know.
She looks at you with puzzlement. She just does not get it. Doesn't ring a bell? All right, I'll ask your mom. Hi, hello, kitty. Yes, we have... Oh, I hit the cable that this... I need to fix my cat cam, but we have a kitty. I am a relatively cozy streamer. We are, however, playing Disco Elysium, which is not an inherently cozy game. But we're going to try to bring out the inner coziness as much as I can, because that's how I roll. Oh, and we do have, yes, a safe and cozy Discord. Chrono's excited. He wants to recruit more people to join the Discord. And the question is our Discord a very active and chatty one, or is it a very slow moving one? Depends on your perspective. We had this conversation earlier today. I'm doing all right. My Ocelot is pretty well mannered for the most part, because I'm not going to pick answers that make me uncomfortable. And I don't know what his personality was like before. I assume that he's messed some things up pretty badly, but there's a lot of things you can do to mess up a relationship that don't mean you were a horrible person. And even if you have done some really terrible and selfish things, you can change and turn your life around. So regardless of where he was and what he'd done in the past, we're going to hope for the best and try to give him the best. This is Sophie. Sophie is going to go back to watching... Oh, are you coming to this side? She's back to watching... She's watching the snow on the screen. I'm sorry. Let me turn off the cat cam so you don't just have her kitten butt. But she's right here, staring at the screen. As you can see, she's literally watching the game. It's pretty fun. She's a good girl. Oh, yesterday was Sophie's gotcha day, by the way. It's the anniversary of her adoption. 3 years ago, the day that things shut down in Toronto. Or the day before things shut down. So, yeah. Alright, so I'm going to say doesn't ring a bell. Alright, I'll ask your mom.
Yes, she knows books. Definitely.
She looks relieved that I'm not going to ask her for this.
What was that? An idea for an unfinished novel stuck somewhere in your forebrain?
No conceptualization. This man is clinging to his own, like the remnants, the fragments of his sadness. He's going to wind up remembering it as we play through this eventually.
You clearly have issues you need to address.
Well, I mean, yes, Volition. We knew that already. At least Volition gets it. Conceptualization perhaps does not. Okay, that's enough romance for me. I had other questions. I don't know if I missed out on opportunities to do something else with this, but we've done what we've done.
Maybe some about other books?
This game is, it's a very, I don't know exactly how best to describe it. It's about being a sad and messed up person who is trying to investigate things, including figuring out who he himself is because he's lost his memory. And so we're trying to figure out the world. We're trying to figure out the story. We've got a whodunit on our hands. And we have a character mystery. All right, hold on. I'm going to give you the cat. You want the cat again? See how this works. We're going to have an extreme close-up of the cat. You can't even see that she's the cat. That's the cat. That's the cat. I promise there's a cat right there. Okay, anyway. Alright, so I'm going to ask about these famous people because that'll actually be some world building. Okay, I'm going to fine. I'll turn the cat cam off. I tried. All right. So let's ask about these famous people and get some world building.
Oh, kings and queens and generals of old, or artists and writers, or musicians, those kinds of people. There's usually something extraordinary about them.
She scratches her cold reddened cheek, then continues. Musicians. I think my character might secretly be a musician.
I think that's why people read them, to find the secrets of their fame.
I'm not sure that's why. I mean, in some cases, yes, but I think a lot of times people just want a better understanding of somebody that has made something meaningful to them. And also people just really enjoy reading other people's stories, like, even if they're not famous. Like, I think most people are a little bit nosy and a little bit curious. Some of us are extremely nosy and extremely curious and want to understand everything about everyone and will start grilling you with questions. But I do think that people they just want to know. They just want to know. They love stories. They love a peek inside somebody else's life.
Seems like most people who read those books fail to get more famous from reading them.
Reading those doesn't make the readers more famous, does it? Or right, I had a different question in mind. I'm going to keep asking her about this. I'm going to waste a lot of time here. Sorry, folks. We're going to do this.
But it does make the famous people more famous.
She smiles gleefully. I suppose that's true, actually. Sometimes you can make yourself out to be a famous person. This is actually a thing that's actually really common, unfortunately, with business nonfiction. People will write a book as though they are an expert on something, and then try to shill that book and try to get talks that they can, like presentations and stuff, where they go and talk about the thing they're ostensibly an expert about, and then shill their book at the end. But a lot of times, like, they're not actually experts, and they're like, if you follow the steps outlined in my book, you will be successful and rich. But they are not successful or rich. Like, this is a thing that happens. I have encountered people who do this. It is a thing. Yes. How to become a millionaire, write a book and get 1 million people to buy it. Yes. Yeah, that's a thing. That's absolutely a thing. All right. So, fame sounds delicious. Maybe someone will write a book about me one day. Fame is for vain people. I have better things to do. Or these famous people sound like a bunch of dorks. Oh, man. Marvin, thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you. Hello. Welcome. Let's see. Oh, never tell me which answer to pick. You know that means I won't pick that answer. You know the rules about backseating. Let's see. Fame sounds delicious. Maybe someone will write a book about me one day. Or fame is for vain people. I have better things to do. I think I'm going to go with 2. Because I actually think that our dude might have been famous at some point. And the irony of that, I think. My perception of irony in that is funny. I don't actually know if it is or not. But fair chrono. Yes. I have better things to do, he says.
Okay, sir.
She stamps her feet, waiting for what comes next. Okay, well, I guess I did not get a conversation there. Okay, bye. See you around, Annette. Let's see how this goes. Alright, so I could go inside. I should go investigate, but I'm not investigating. At least I did not ask the small child about the dead body, so that's something. Let's go meet her mother. There's things I should be doing, but I'm not gonna. Alright, an old girl has redeemed stretch. I'm gonna stretch. Oi. Oi. Ah. 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 Blah. You should also stretch. Arms over your head. If the curse killed him, if by the curse we mean like a dozen angry people. Alright, hold on. Hi, Phil. We're back with cat cam. Alright. Let's go inside, shall we? All right, Phil. That is acceptable. If you have a reason to not stretch, you're allowed to not stretch. Oh man. That's the fan whirring. Why is there a fan? It's snowing outside. I guess it must be to dry things off. Well, we've got these low drones, high strings, and a harp. It's really pretty. Oh man. Okay, I'm gonna turn the volume down a little bit and look at some things. Gift books and molten candy because they're in the window. Or else it's hot in here, and that could explain why the fan is going, even though it's snowing outside. Because the light comes through, and I guess maybe it's very well insulated. That's interesting.
The display rack is brimming with worn paperbacks featuring an extremely muscular, sword-wielding barbarian on the cover. Nearly all the titles contain the word Heimdall.
Heimdall. Heimdall. Okay, I will try to say that right. All right, so I can look through the display of books.
Rows and rows of Heimdall men blur your vision. You make out some titles. Man from Heimdall and the Mammoth Riders. Man from Heimdall, Return to Heimdall. And the solipsistic Man from Heimdall and the Heimdall Man.
Amazing. Amazing. Mass market trash paperbacks. Incredible. I'm just going to keep going. Good God, how many are there?
Maybe 100. Man from Heimdall and the sages at the end of the world. Man from Heimdall and the false god. Man from Heimdall and the scorched earth. Man from Heimdall, the Heimdall colonies. Man from Heimdall and the swamp beast. Man from Heimdall and the snow crabs.
Amazing. I'm sorry, folks. We're going to keep going. Is that all?
Not even close. Man from Heimdall in hell. Man from Heimdall and the forest of slaves. Man from Heimdall under the lake. Man from Heimdall, Heimdall burning. There's even the Trial of Death, a pastoral combat game book set in the world of Heimdall.
Oh my God, have you
and
ever...
so much more.
Have you ever played any of the combat game books? Like, there's books that you read. They're not quite choose your own adventure because you actually roll dice. Have you ever played any of those? I've played a few of them. They're really something. Amazing. But see, that's not a tabletop RPG thing. That's, in this case. I mean, I guess you could have. I guess they would maybe have partnered with a tabletop RPG company to make those books. Actually, Steve Jackson Games, now that I think about it, I think was responsible for most of those books that I know of. The Fighting Fantasy, yes, that's it. Yes, wasn't that Steve Jackson? The same company that made Munchkin and a bunch of other games? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to test my pain threshold and see if any of the books call out to me. I have a low chance of this, but I got to try it.
Nothing of interest. Only silence and the cosmic background pain radiation.
Amazing. So I could say storekeep, tell me about the Muscle Man books, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to keep looking around. Old sports magazines tucked away in a dark corner. That is not our priority. My guess would be that would be for the people who are dragged here by somebody else who is interested in the things that the bookseller is more interested in stocking. So if you're like a husband or dad, if we're stereotyping, you can go read your sports magazines in the corner. Nobody cares about you. Let's take a look at this. This stack of things. This must be the board games.
A small mountain of colorful board game boxes. There are numerous types of games for all ages. A lot of shelf space seems to be taken up by Wirral-related merchandise.
Let's look at the pile of Wirral-related items.
An endless variety of source books, lore books, and codices litter the table. The topmost book is titled Welkin Compendium, 2nd edition.
Okay, I am going to have to try to figure out which particular tabletop RPG they are going to be parodying here. We'll find out. I feel like Welkin Compendium is probably an indication, but the only Welkin that comes to mind is I had a friend who had named her cat that.
There's also a large hardbound tome with intricate cover art, The Hunters of Catawak, Boreal Creature Compendium, and a Pick Your Path adventure game book titled Tales of Wirral, Cavern of Velkrag.
So Choose Your Adventure has just shown up. Excellent. I love Pick Your Path Adventure. Choose Your Own Adventure, yes. A+.
Books in a board game section? Who wants to read books?
Binoclard. I don't know what that means. I assume it's glasses, like binoculars, and I don't know what that is, so I don't know. It's like 4 eyes or something. Anything that really catches my eye? Let's see. Of course there should be books in a board game section, because the board games, as it turns out, are mostly tabletop role-playing.
There's a box that says Wirral, 3rd edition Mega Setting Supplements Module. The side panel notes, a fantastique adventure board game. New maps and miniatures. A sticker on it displays 25 real.
I don't have any money, so I'm not going to buy that. But let's go take a look at this. The book collects the national recipes of Arda. They are all about lake trout. Okay, yeah, so we don't know Arda. Or at least I don't know Arda. I wonder what's behind here. Gotta investigate. Oh my god, the idea of making...
You see a set of tattered curtains blocking the way to another room. A strange cage-like trinket dangles from the curtains.
Can you imagine trying to make Kim play D&D with you? I don't know what we're all... If that's like a word in a language that would indicate which game it's referencing. I wonder which game he would play. I wonder what kind of character he would play. He would the entire time have to reassure you that this is not actually real and you're not actually a barbarian smashing things into a club. Or whatever. Ah, man. Alright. A set of tattered curtains blocking the way to another room. Oh, I can see the other room back here now that I look at it. A cage-like trinket dangles from the curtains.
Excuse me, officer. The back room is strictly for employees only.
She does not look very pleasant, but she does look very human. I'm gonna examine the trinket.
You see some kind of charm, an irregular polyhedron assembled from bones, sticks, and straw. Inside, a disturbing fish head with empty eye sockets stares at you.
Okay, that sounds like that's something either causing or trying to block a curse right there.
This is a traditional Seminese ward, meant to provide protection against ill luck, bad dreams, curses, and other supernatural scourges.
Okay, yeah, I kind of had that vibe. And knowing that there is supposedly a curse, somebody has left this here to try to protect them from the curse. Who are the Seminese?
Inhabitants of Ile de Fantôme, the Seminine Islands down south. Aside from poking at it suspiciously, there is nothing else to do with the fishhead charm at this time. The curtains remain shut before you.
I'm pretty sure that I do not have the knowledge or skills. There's things here. Yes, I think that might be where Measurehead said his people were from before we kind of made fun of him by pointing out that he's never even been there, which is fine. You can have your identity. Like, you don't have to have been to the place that your people come from for that to be part of your identity. Just don't be like him.
These shelves are overburdened with books from the same series. You see the name Dick Mullen over and over.
Let's look through the display of books.
Crime fiction is a disgrace. An asinine misrepresentation of the physical attributes of the arduous everyday work of actual police officers.
There was a slight misread there. It should be the physical attributes but he said physical attributes as. I would have marked that if I were proofreading this.
These books greatly overstate the excitement of police work, glossing over how long it takes to actually follow up on leads and eliminate dead ends.
Amazing. Yeah, I know. I don't think that this game is specifically and only dunking on romance novels. I just was more saying that, like, society as a whole is more inclined to dunk on romance novels.
What's more, they completely ignore the psychological hardships of year after year coming into contact with people during the worst days of their lives. Not a single mention of all the stress this work creates upon the officer's family. Detective fiction just doesn't tell the truth at all. Now, would you like a list of all the books found on the shelf?
Oh no. Doesn't Vimes have a wife? Sorry, I got cold. It's winter. Yeah, like, at least the American police force is pretty fundamentally rotten at its core and at its inception. But in an ideal world in which the cops did what they're supposed to do, the idealistic idea of what cops are supposed to be and what white people in the US have been sold is what cops are. This right here, people who go through trying to get to the bottom of who did bad things, stop them from doing more bad things. This is, I think, a compassionate and humanizing way of looking at that. Unfortunately, the reality of the situation is not quite that. But yeah, the seeing people during the worst days of their lives, encountering like the worst situations over and over again, and that would take a toll on your family as well. Now, no, I'm gonna say it. That is not actually the only really common problem between police and their families. But if we were to take a more optimistic look at them, yeah, other positions, especially in medical fields, will be extremely damaging to people for similar reasons. Only medical professionals, and I'm including EMTs as medical professionals because they ought to be recognized as medical professionals. They ought to be supported like medical professionals, and they ought to be paid like medical professionals. Which they're not, by the way. EMTs don't make that much money and have one of the most emotionally draining careers you can possibly have. Yeah. It's bad. It's real bad. It's real bad. Why don't we just take care of people? It is so essential to have people filling roles like serving as EMTs. That's such an important job for people, for society. It is so important to have somebody be able to show up in an emergency and help take care of things. Kind of to tide you over until you can get to a dedicated professional and an expert. Why do we not prioritize that? Well, there's a whole can of worms. It's a lot of things. I mean, don't get me started on teachers either. There are many, many sad and unfair, unjust even things in the world. It's really, really sad. So let's go ahead and get a list of the books found on the shelf. Right, of course, if it only has to do with poor people. It's poor people taking care of poor people, and who cares about any of them, right? They don't matter. They are literally things to do the tasks that result in me being comfortable. That's their only role. That's their only value. You know, like... Oh my god.
You see, Dick Mullen on the job. Get me Mullen. The stalwart adventures of Richard P. Mullen. Dick Mullen and the murder in the orchard. The sordid affair of Dick Mullen.
I'm curious about that last one.
A killing is declared. Dick Mullen in the murder house. The final case of Dick Mullen. An obvious lie. Dick Mullen in the clock tower. The ordeals of Dick Mullen. Dauntless Dick. Dick Mullen's funeral pyre. The murder of Dick Mullen.
Dick Mullen dies? Or what are we going to do, Sherlock Holmes here?
Oh no. Turns out he faked it to solve a case.
Oh good, we're about to have a breakthrough about Guillaume. Breakthrough imminent, they warned me. This could be bad. Okay. Yeah, well, I feel like systems around the world have problems, and they may not be the same problems because they're not the same systems. But if you're commenting on certain things in certain systems in certain ways, even if the specifics are different, there's gonna be similarity that we can be inspired by or upset about. All right, so let's see. Are there any more?
Yes, there's also the dame who did it. Farewell, my Mullen. Faking death seems to be a common trope in the Mullen series. The morbid tales of Dick Mullen. A dark tide turns.
Amazing. I'm passing so much time here.
Tragedy calls for Dick Mullen. Another one with fake death. And, of course, Dick Mullen, the murderer. In order to catch a murderer, Dick Mullen must become the murderer.
That's literally what my guy said.
Come on. This is not the way real police solve crimes. The real police are some 20 kilometers away, sitting in an armored motor carriage.
All right, Esprit de Corps has its feelings hurt. It is offended.
Come on, Chester. Tell the story again.
A bald man turns toward a lean man and pats him on the back.
Again? Man, I tell that one at least once a month. It's not that interesting.
Chester replies.
The fuck it is. And these guys haven't heard it. You see, Chester here.
He pokes his finger at the lean man. Chester faked his own death once. Interesting. This looks like a flashback. Because I was confused at first. I was like, I didn't see any people here. The real police are some 20 kilometers away, sitting in an armored motor carriage. There's a civilian sitting in the back seat, which, if this is a motor carriage, that is their cop car. Presumably that's somebody that they've got held. These guys.
Gosh, why?
One civilian looks on amazed. The bald man bellows a reply.
A very fucking dangerous case, ain't that right, Chester? They almost got you that time.
Yeah, sure came close. Alright, so I was tailing this guy called Francis to shoe.
The inside of the motor carriage is thick with cigarette smoke. Outside, it starts to rain. Doesn't sound like these are prisoners of theirs that they're telling the story to. That's so interesting. Yeah, smoky car interiors are gross, and I'm glad that smoking is not such a common thing anymore. That is of an era. Oh, man.
After all this, you still haven't found the answer to the one question that matters. Who is Dick Mullen?
So I wonder if that was a flashback. Because Kim, you know, I where would I have been, though? There's two cops in the front seat. And there's... Yeah, because there's presumably the two cops in the front seat, and there's the civilians in the back seat. Only one of the civilians speaks up, saying "gosh, why?" in a voice that I don't think we'd heard before. So perhaps one of the other civilians is our fellow Ocelot, because he had to have been present in that scene, because that seems like a flashback. Interesting. Either that, or it's possible that... No, that's all we've got. All right, well, put a pin in that. That's interesting. Okay, reaction speed, medium 10. Who is Dick Mullen? And by the way, again, as a reminder, folks, do not tell me the things. So thank you. You've been good. If you're exploding because Lauren is speculating about ridiculous things, there is a spoiler channel where you can do that. All right, who is Dick Mullen? Reaction. I'm not very good at reactions, so we probably won't get this, but let's see.
Your attempt to grasp at the answer fails. It seems very close by, pulsating just out of reach.
All right.
Guillaume Le Million. Bad news. Guillaume Le Million did not become a cop. In 1938, he went on a tour to the Sinyao province in Safre, where he died of autoerotic asphyxiation. His body was found hanging from a decorative dragon tree in his junior suite, amid drug paraphernalia, unwholesome objects, and the Sylvia Trainer single, Wonderland, skipping in the background. And yes, you can take this as a metaphor for Revachol in the 30s, and also as a warning.
Okay, so I did not... I'm not the man. Okay, that's fair. I figured probably wouldn't be, but I don't know. All right, so he had a bad time. Well, he had a good time that led to a bad time. +1 pain threshold. Blood oxygen is boring. And all psyche learning caps raised by 1. Okay. That means that it is harder to learn things there. Or are those both good? I don't know. I suppose I will accept that. Yes. All right. Still working on this. Okay, my encyclopedia is better. My pain threshold is better. Oh, I can level up more. Interesting. Okay. A quaint picture book brochure. Very colorful. A tome of fascist magic. Rather candid. Huh. Okay. Yeah, the body horror art, I just don't look too closely at.
The plaque on the shelf reads, Biographies of Famous People. You see a large variety of names, none of which ring a bell.
All right, looks at the display of books.
Browsing through all the books with all their names makes your head spin. None of these seem important or relevant. It's all just vapid egoism. Suddenly, a particularly odd title catches your eye. It reads, High-Speed Love, the tragic true love story of Jacob Irv and Alfie Delatraz, by one Cecilia Averbrook.
I would not have been able to figure out how to pronounce that.
High Speed Love chronicles the romance between two of the finest tip-top tourney racers in history. One of them is the madcap driver, Jacob Irv. His blonde...
All right. Okay. Are we all back? Have we finished our ads? We have our kitten here. Observe. Behold the baby. She's a baby. She's a very good baby. What was the last thing you guys saw? Are we close? Did you hear this? Do you need me to read this out loud, or are we good? I'm waiting on you folks. You saw all of this? Okay. Fantastic. All right. Then we will continue onward. Where is my mouse cursor? There's no. Oh good, my cursor's broken. Just a sec. Come on. Well, that's gonna be a problem. Oh, now it thinks that it's got the controller. Is it the controller that's causing the problem?
Next to Irv's life story, you see a slim biography of an Occidental rock star called the Anti-Star. He's famous for shooting morphine into one of his eyeballs and cocaine into the other.
Okay, it seems... Is the problem that the controller was plugged in still? I guess that's probably it. Alright, well that's good to know. Because I've got the controller here now. And now I can use my mouse. Okay, we're gonna do this. Alright. The Anti-Star does not sound like a good time. Irv's love story seems like it would be better than reading about this. This is exciting.
Next to that, Revacholian radio personality Guillaume stands in front of a rundown drug den. He's a permanent fixture on Channel 8, reporting on real-life crime and ruining cops' days.
Ruining cops' days, huh? Interesting. Yeah, there's like these little bits and pieces that tell me that you do remember things. You may not consciously remember things, but you do have these impressions of people and things that indicate that stuff's still in there.
I really must insist you buy one of the books. Reading them is not for free. Do still browse though, but not too long.
The shopkeep is not impressed with me.
She understands she has erred against the customer and immediately corrects course.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to rush you. You are browsing. Go ahead. Take your time. Time is commerce.
Amazing. Amazing. The fact that she's impatient there is a little strange.
Several maps have been attached to a bulletin board hidden inside the alcove. They're held up by small pins. The board has come loose from one corner. The maps look old and faded. Your eye catches a map of Insulinda, a map of Revachol, and a map of Martinaise.
I don't think I know Insulinda. I'm sure they've said that, but I haven't placed that. Because Revachol is the whole city, and Martinaise is the particular part of it that we're in. Or is Revachol the country and Martinaise? We'll find out in a second.
This large map displays archipelagos. You see a constellation of small dots on the light blue emptiness of the Insulindic Ocean. The largest in the northeast is La Caillou. You are here. Another far away in the southwest, Seminese Islands, Ile de Fantôme.
Okay, so we are part of close by archipelagos. Interesting, though. That is a lot of water, potentially. So it's a physically different world than ours. See what else.
Ozon, Laurentide, Fas à la Mer, Archipelagos, North Arcade Islands. All just specks of dust on the vastness of the Insulindic. On the edges of the map, the color fades into a blur of dotted lines, black and white.
Some of these names I've heard. Laurentide I've heard before. I remember that because it's got my name in it. Don't think I've heard of these. How interesting, though. This sounds deeply unfamiliar.
Disintegrating into mathematics.
Visual calculus. What?
In the northeast, a dust mite stands on the north coast of Caillou in a bookstore. It's you.
Thanks, Inland Empire. Let's see. Squint first. Can you see cities on the islands?
You can. On Caillou, Revachol, a single black star. On Ozon, Fondelier, and Vimandu. On archipelagos, Croyan Moran, Villiers. On Seminine, Olduvai, and on Laurentide, Deora of the Seven Seas.
That's a cool name.
Lost little pearls of light, tiny fires in the dark.
Not a lot of cities there. Feeling lonely.
850 million people live on these little dots, an oceanic world of culture and commerce torn apart by history.
Interesting. Okay. So this is our part of the world.
The ocean breaks apart into a tangle of cosines and azimuths, all pointing into pale nothingness. Windy is the north azimuth. Grad is the northeast azimuth. Samara is the east azimuth. Seo is the west azimuth. Isolas, they're called.
We've heard isolas before, but I've never heard of an azimuth. I don't know what an azimuth is. Did the planet get flooded? Or is this only our small portion of the world that is islands?
Connections to other worlds. Words past the Insulindian, unknown to you. You only know you've never been there.
Misread words instead of worlds. In worlds past. Sorry. So the Insulindian is the part of the world that we're in, but there are other. I assume here that worlds are not literally other worlds, that it is just other parts of this world, but
You have little idea what they are. Distant stars, gods, but looking at them makes you feel almost non-existent. Whatever they are, the Isolas are immeasurably large compared to you, and very, very far away.
like I don't know how literally to take this, or if Ocelot is just like, if his imagination is running away with him. You know? Yeah. Like, this is a very poetic description, but I don't know how much of it is literal and how much of it is just the world filtered through his brain. He has a very interesting and colorful brain. But my cat is cute. Did you see her flex her little beans? She's a baby. Look at this foot. Do you see this foot right here? Beans.
Perhaps they are gods. Gods of distance and outer dust.
I can't quite make sense of that. And apparently neither can Ocelot, so we're in this together. Cool. Let's look at the map of Revachol.
The north coast of a verdant island is shattered by the delta of a river. It is the River Esperance. Countless bridges put the shards back together, connecting city blocks to river islands. La Delta says a great artificial heart in the center, teeming with life forms and construction.
Oh my gosh. The words are just, the word choices are just really, they're very poetic. It is very poetic. He has a very poetic mind. But the north coast is shattered by the delta of a river. Like the use of the word shattered there is so interesting. Because it says something about his frame of mind. Sorry, we're gonna shift to a different place for the cat cam. If you would like to still have cat cam. Because she shuffled. Oh, you can't see her. Hold on. Sorry. There's a kitty. Let's see if I can make it so you can see this better. I have limited ability to place this camera, unfortunately. I'll try to get a better situation for the cat cam at another time. But yeah, no, the writing of this is absolutely gorgeous. And the description of the great artificial heart in the center kind of makes me think of some of the writing that I loved so very much in Open Sorcery, which, again, if you like writing and you're okay with games that are literally just writing, that is a beautiful little poem of a game. So the shards are put back together by bridges, city blocks to river islands. The delta, a great artificial heart in the center, teeming with life forms and construction. Presumably that is the heart of the heart of the city.
To the east, rolling hillsides, Le Jardin, Stella Marie, the suburbs of Saint-Baptiste, swallowed up into the megacity. They sound rich to you. This is Rivershoal East.
So there is presumably a part of the city that's actually well off.
Houdon, it's somewhere to live. Not bad. Then there's Jamrock. It's bad. People shouldn't live there, but they do. Then Forburg. It's almost as bad, and much larger. Then Coal City. It's the worst.
This is a lot of neighborhoods. I'm trying to get a sense for, like, if they're like neighborhoods, if they're like boroughs, exactly what they are like. So Coal City is the worst. Okay. Jamrock, I know. We've talked about Jamrock.
You feel you're just west of Coal City, somewhere above Jamrock and close to Coal City.
So not in a great part of town. Got it. Let's look at the map of Martinez.
It's not really a map. It's a tourist thing. A picture postcard with buildings on it, drawn from an isometric perspective. A date in the upper right corner says 48.
See, it's funny because it's an isometric perspective that this game plays in. Excellent.
Still, it's detailed. Could be pretty useful for scouting ahead. You see the jagged boxes of an industrial harbor, even the whirling in rags there.
I would like to buy these maps, but I don't have any money. Storekeep, can I buy these maps?
I'm sorry, officer. The map of Martinez is the only one available. The other two are not for sale anymore. And besides, you could scarcely afford them.
Yeah, to be fair, probably the one of Martinez is the only one I can buy right now. I assume if I wind up leaving Martinez later in the game, that there'll be an opportunity to get a map then.
They're quite valuable, though they might not look it. The map of Martinez is 90 cents, though.
You can either say, I can say you seem to underestimate my resources, but sure, okay, which I'm not going to say, or why is the one of Martinez so cheap, which I'm going to ask.
That old thing. It's an out-of-date map of a tourist location that never was nor came to be.
All right.
From when some design studio people tried to spruce the place up 4 or 5 years ago. They also renovated the horse statue, set up those coin-operated viewers, and designed the new street lamps.
The coin-operated viewers I've seen.
The place does not look like a successful tourist trap, does it?
No, it does not. Well done, Rhetoric. All right, what happened then?
They didn't get that far, for some reason. A shame the project never got going. Would be nice if someone fixed Martinez up. All these ruins are bad for business.
I don't think I could steal it. And I don't have any money, so I'm going to have to leave. Okay, well, that's a shame. We're almost done with the bookstore.
This bookstore is not strictly about crime, romance, and biographies of famous people.
Ooh.
There's also a wide range of paranatural literature.
I guess I probably should have asked her about all the rest of these. Let's look through the shelf.
Amidst the various books, you find one written by someone named Matthias W. Dundas. It's about wholeness, unity, balance.
Huh.
These three things are very important to the working class mind.
What? What?
The point of the book, and many others on this shelf, is to give people medicinal advice in situations where they don't have access to paid health services.
That's a strange thing for a shelf of paranormal books. Wait, paranormal is the normal word. It's super normal and paranatural that are the words that they use that I've said are strange. I'm very confused. How does that work?
It serves platitudes while also telling everyone that traditional medicine, the kind people don't have access to and which costs more than this book, is garbage and would only give you cancer anyway, without even curing your cold or anything.
Yeah, so one of the reasons why people wind up taking a lot of really terrible non-medicine, basically people fall for quacks very easily when they're desperate, and a lot of times they're desperate because they can't afford medical treatment for themselves or their loved ones. So this is very accurate. This is very authentic. This is a real thing. So okay, the magic is quackery. I see. And you don't have to feel bad about the fact that you can't afford a doctor, because your doctor would be garbage anyway. So there.
Wholeness, unity, balance, on the other hand, can basically take care of anything. Though it is important to note, when it's up to your mind to heal yourself, then it's because of your mind that you're ill in the first place.
Oh, yep. There it is. Yeah, so basically, because you can use the power, this is the power of positive thinking. Power of positive thinking. In other words, that you can heal yourself by thinking positively, thinking the right way. Thereby implying that if something is wrong with you, it's your fault, and you are not thinking the right way. Which is a genuine and true predatory quackery that is in the real world. That there are people who believe wholeheartedly, gets a lot of attention, makes a lot of money. The Secret. Yes, that's it. I couldn't remember what that was called. Yes. Blaming people who suffer for their suffering, which is one of the fundamental problems with, again, American culture is one of the only cultures I can speak about from a first-hand perspective, but I have seen this evidence of this in other cultures as well, but it does seem like it is particularly strong in the US. This is part of why social services get shot down in the US. This is part of why people have a lack of compassion for people who are homeless, people who are disabled, people who are in any way in a bad situation. There's this idea that the way that they got there is through some moral failing on their part. And therefore, they don't deserve to be taken care of. They don't deserve resources. They don't deserve social services. They need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. They need to show that they can do it. They just need to stop being lazy and useless. And maybe then they'll get better and they'll deserve it. And part of why this is such an attractive philosophy for people is because the world is a terrifying and lonely place in which we are small, fragile creatures with no real power over our own fates. And that's terrifying. So if you ascribe to a philosophy like this, then as long as you have the right thoughts and take the right actions and aren't bad, then nothing like that will ever happen to you. So believing in it is a way of believing in your ability to control your own destiny and protect yourself. It's self-preservation. And that's part of why people cling to it so badly. I mean, like, yes, there is, I think, a certain degree of satisfaction that people get out of feeling superior and judging other people. But I think that fundamentally, ultimately, at the core, a lot of times, the reason for it is fear. and wanting to protect themselves and wanting to protect the people they care about. And that's why you get a lot of victim blaming in other areas as well. For example, when people are blaming, women who are sexually assaulted, for example, well, she was asking for, what was she wearing? What was she doing? Part of that is part of that is to, enforce cultural norms and power dynamics. But part of it is also to find some way to blame her so that you and your loved ones are not at risk, because they won't do the things that she did to deserve it. So it's another way of trying to exert control or believe in your ability to control your environment. If I do the correct rituals, I'll be safe. Yes. And then the prosperity gospel is kind of the in some ways the inverse, in some ways the partner of this, which is that if you do well, then God must have decided that you should do well. If you're rich, then you must deserve to be rich. If you're beautiful, you must deserve to be beautiful. Like, all of these things come to you because you deserve it. And that's at least part of it. There's also like a sense of like, if you give to the people who have that, it can rub off on you to some degree. Maybe they can intervene with God or maybe it'll get passed along to you. It's really, really unfortunate. And I don't know how common these are in other countries and other cultures. So for those of you who are in other parts of the world who have other backgrounds, and other experiences, like I'd be curious to hear what you have to say about this, in your own culture, in your own place. There's not as much of it in Canada, as there was in the US, which has been interesting to see. Also, Canada does have more social services, and a slightly more of a fundamental understanding of the humanity of the people around you. And also a slightly bigger understanding that taking care of all of us means taking care of me too. So it's a little bit better. Or perhaps it would be more fair to say it's a little less bad. But there's still room for improvement, shall we say. And yeah, it also prevents any need for any systemic changes, because it's not that there's something wrong in the system that is causing homelessness or contributing to homelessness. It's personal failing on the part of individuals. They made the problem, and it's their responsibility to fix it. Like there's no need to address systemic racism and the consequences of that if it's purely a personal failing, or you could extend it to be a cultural failing if you're racist directly, which I've known people who say, well, obviously, like they must, like this group of people must be in some way inherently bad, because bad things tend to happen to them. So instead of bad things tend to happen to them because the system is stacked against them, it becomes bad things tend to happen to them because something in them deserves it. And it's very dehumanizing and cruel, and leads to so much unnecessary suffering. It's just absolutely terrible. Yes, Americans do see themselves as temporarily embarrassed millionaires. No, that is true. There's this idea that I could be that rich person and be able to do anything I want. So I should allow rich people to continue to be able to do whatever they want, so that when I get there, I will have that absolute control as well. It's really not great. And I'm sorry to hear if we've been exporting that to other parts of the world. 'Cause the people who have power and money have an easier time holding on to that power and money, or even getting more power and more money, which they don't even need it, but they want it. It's the only thing they have to live for. It's the only thing that they value. If they can get everybody else to buy into this, so they encourage that. So yeah, it's not great. It's not great. However, there is some hope to be had. There are changes with more with younger generations, are breaking through, actually shockingly successfully breaking through a lot of quite shameless and blatant propaganda which is pretty. Here, I'm gonna turn the cat cam off because I think that it's out of place here. But there's been some rather substantial propaganda and poor education and things like that people in my generation and below. I mean, there are some people like in older generations as well who can see through this or are starting to see through this, but definitely younger people are beginning to no longer think of socialism, for example, as a bad word. No longer thinking of unions as evil and inherently flawed beyond having any value. Partly due to the internet, yes, definitely. There's other reasons as well. Partly because society, frankly, is breaking down. And so a lot of the lies that we've been told have come apart at the seams, exposing what's underneath them. So when I lived in Pennsylvania, I was briefly trying to get involved with the local DSA in Harrisburg. I lived like an hour and a half away from Harrisburg, so it wasn't very local, but it was the closest thing to me. And I remember going there, and there were a whole bunch of folks who were millennials and younger. And then there were some folks who were like in their 60s or older, and there was kind of a big gap between there. And I remember talking a little bit to the older people who'd been doing this for decades, and they were thrilled and confused kind of by the sudden advent of just this they went from it just being just a few of them for decades trying to do this work to suddenly there was a resurgence. There were all these young people joining who didn't know things, who were completely and utterly ignorant of their history, because we've been kept ignorant. It's very, very, very interesting stuff. Yeah. I don't know. I'd like to think that that change is meaningful, and I'd like to think that that shift culturally is something that we can be part of, and that's a thing that we can do. We don't necessarily have a lot of power, but we do have some cultural power. We have the power to help establish cultural norms, and to share information, and to support each other, and to support people who are able to do more concrete change. And so, if nothing else, I hope that we can find ways to do those things as much as possible. So yeah, there we go. That's a relevant rant, isn't it? See if the book says anything else.
The book features chapters on topics such as how to find magnesium. It even lists plants you can harvest magnesium from. How to continue drinking if you're an alcoholic who has destroyed his liver. And there's even a chapter on the ancient Seraïs tradition of using duck gallbladder preservatives to treat and prevent sexually transmitted diseases. Pre and post factum apply. Nothing worth buying.
Interesting.
This is just mundane garbage. What's even paranatural about this?
All right, Inland Empire, let's perk ourselves right up. Let's see if we can find some absolutely wackadoodle magic instead.
The throbbing in your head increases with every passing moment you gaze at this shelf. Suddenly, as if out of nowhere, a small green book becomes apparent. The title of it reads, Medicinal Purposes of the Pale.
I'm curious about this. What's the pale?
The book contains very little explanation on the matter. This knowledge seems to be taken for granted.
Because I've heard the phrase, the idiom, beyond the pale, but I don't think that's what they mean. What's this book about?
The book contains descriptions of various pseudoscientific therapies, alternative medicines, and folk remedies involving the pale, also known as le territoire.
So it's a place.
For example, it recommends vigorously swatting one's naked body with a venik or hand broom, made from the leafy twigs of a young birch tree from the near pale.
Birch trees, in several cultures, birch trees are the trees that are haunted, that spirits are drawn to, that ghosts are caught in. There's a strong association specifically between birch trees, birch forests, and other. All right, sounds painful or sounds invigorating. Let's be honest here. This sounds painful. I'm not going to be sorry, no clown shoes.
It is supposedly invigorating and good for the circulation.
What else?
It also recommends consuming distilled spirits like vodka or whiskey that have been aged in the pail. Readers are instructed to cover these jars in a shallow hole just inside the pail and leave them there for 30 to 60 days, depending on the potency desired.
What is the pale? Like the no man's land of like atomic warfare? I don't know.
Among other benefits, it is alleged to restore a damaged liver to perfect health.
Interesting. This actually sounds like this would have its roots in an actual cultural practice. Interesting. Interesting.
That seems improbable.
It does seem improbable. To say, how is that possible?
Is it any more improbable than anything else that human beings put their faith in?
Fair enough. What else is in there?
For general health and well-being, readers are encouraged to take regular strolls through the pale, though a sidebar cautions readers to limit each stroll to less than an hour. These strolls promise to cleanse the mind of worries and the body of toxins, especially if the perambulator performs this ritual in the nude. Nudity figures prominently in a number of these prescriptions. This is exactly what you need.
I don't know about that, Inland Empire. I mean, it would be good for him to cleanse the mind of worries. And the body of toxins, you know, normally when things start talking about toxins, that just means that they're complete predatory quackery. But he has been filling his system up with alcohol, which is a poison, so maybe not entirely accurate, and certainly not what they mean by it, but yeah. Anything else of note?
There's an entire section devoted to cures for men who are struggling to perform their marital obligations.
I can either say, well, I certainly don't need that, or I probably need that.
Excuse me, sir. I believe you've been perusing that particular volume long enough. If you'd like to continue reading, I must insist you buy it.
All right, I will leave. Probably if I didn't, I could probably have kept going and maybe found something later, but that's okay. All right, and then one more thing here. Another boring book, just discarded here. Should I ask her about things? I guess I could. Oh.
Shelves full of biographies of famous people, whoever they are.
I had a thought or an observation. Want to say anything of note on this shelf?
I would say The Greatest Innocence. Yes, most certainly. It's an important educational tool delving into the depths of history, religion, and their relation to innocentic power.
Innocentic power? Who or what is an innocence?
A very influential historical figure. But surely I don't have to tell you that. You're a law officer, and law officers have at least some education.
What? Okay, so either she is so connected, because it sounds like mysticism type stuff. Potentially. Or else that's a term for like an actual historical figure. I don't know. Like, the thing is, like, it's so incredibly jarring when you don't know the rules of the world that we exist in here. You don't know how it works. You don't know what's normal. Some parts of it feel familiar, but then a lot of it feels very, very strange and unfamiliar. And you're completely disoriented. So when she says something like this, I literally don't know. Is this some sort of wackadoodle magic interpretation of things that is not based in reality? Is this some sort of wackadoodle magic thing that is actually how this universe works? Does this have nothing to do with magic and is actually just talking about historical figures and something like that? Like, I literally don't know. So I'm really curious.
The book is also very daring. The author aims to re-examine the universal understandings of the inacentic system, creating a fresh vantage point and a shift in the tired order of things.
Like, I don't understand what the inacentic system is, or whether people outside of her would put any faith in it. Also, there's no question, actually, she is not just a person who sells books, because selling books is a thing to do. She is clearly very passionate about these books. So, I thought it was about which of these innocences is the coolest and greatest.
Perhaps for a layman, deep analysis is necessary to peel back the multi-layered meanings.
Like, is she full of it, or is there some truth here? I don't know.
Do her words seem vague and abstract to you?
Okay, all right. Conceptualization says that she's basically full of hot air. That's fair. That's fair. Okay. So you recommend it?
Certainly, it's prudent for a person to have at least an elementary understanding of history and society. Imagine the chaos we'd be in otherwise.
So this is hilarious in a very ironic way, because they know if you're playing this for the first time, you have no elementary understanding of history or society. So everything is chaotic to you. It's fascinating. It's great. This is very funny. This is very funny.
You feel like you should get this one. Definitely. It's important somehow. There's something personal inside.
I don't have any money, but I'm sure that's very interesting. All right, let's ask about this shelf.
Shelves filled to the brim with...
Oh, crime, robberies, murders, even sexual crimes. We're fortunate to have Dick Mullen and his stories to sort all that out.
Okay, this doesn't seem like this is as much her passion.
You're a police officer, apparently. You should buy all of these. They really do teach a person how to be a proper detective.
Oh, she's hilarious. Oh my god, she's ridiculous. Okay, I'm no longer thinking there's malice in her treatment of her daughter. I think she's just a hot mess. Alright, let's see if she has anything to say about this, and then we're gonna go talk to her.
A small mountain of colourful board game boxes. There are new...
Wonderful board games, sir. The Viticulturist is a classic for sure, or perhaps you'd like Archipelagos of Insulinda, a very educational game for those interested in geography.
The Viticulturist. My brain wants to say that what sounds like it would have something to do with doctoring. Something to do with life and growing. I don't know. Archipelagos of Insulinda, yes. I'm trying to figure out. Oh, viticulture refers to wine? Okay. Okay. Interesting. Alright.
Braubritter is a fun game of economic competition, but can get quite intense after a while. We have games for the whole family. You can play with your children.
So what, Monopoly?
Who are you going to play board games with? Do you have friends or family?
Wow, I have children, a family. Do I have friends? You look at the lieutenant, or I don't want to think about this. I want to look at the lieutenant and have Kim be like, I'm not going to play with you. I don't know if I have children or family. Like, the thing is, like, this seems like this would get an interesting and an entertaining reaction from Kim. This seems like this might be better at, like, potentially digging something up. Oh, that's Catan. Okay. I wasn't sure. It does seem like there'd be references. Also, the fact that this is like a little like this display has like the like little like 6-star like the 6-pointed like asterisk thing. I feel like there's is it Risk? I think it's Risk that is one of your pieces is shaped like that. I'm trying to remember. It's probably just a coincidence, but I thought of it. Trivial Pursuit? Is it Trivial Pursuit? Trivial Pursuit, you have like little bits, pie wedges. No, I thought that there was like an asterisk. I've only played Catan a couple of times. I'm really not a board gamer at all. Risk does have bits that look like that. Okay. I have played Risk. Risk starts fights in family. The cousins in my family, we stopped playing Risk. But I have played it. Make a mad dash to Australia when all else fails. I'm on a tradition in Lauren's family. Oh gosh. Wow, I have children, a family, or do I have friends like the lieutenant? Do I have friends? Let's look at the lieutenant, see if he'll play.
Are you actually friends? Or just colleagues thrown together by circumstance?
Well, the option I won't pick is yes, kids, friends, chicks. I have all of those. Or I don't feel as if I have any kids. Or look at me, who'd want to have children with me? I'm gonna go with this one, this level of self-deprecation.
Don't be so hard on yourself, sir. You just need to clean up a bit. And technically, friends are a bit like family.
She fiddles her pendant. You just need to clean up a bit. I mean, like, there's a sort of sincerity there. Like, she's not gonna be like, oh, you're just fine.
For playing with friends, I'd recommend Suzerainty. It's a civilization building game where you build a civilization, then set off to brutally colonize and repress other civilizations. It'll cost 12 real.
Oh man, let's ask about these were all things.
Lousy auras there. No, role-playing games are popular among those types. You know, who are into those kind of things. Personally, I don't like it. Not at all.
Okay, she's talking about auras, so that tells me that she's probably a bit woo-woo, which potentially puts context of her talking about the innocence thing. Yes, no, this is very definitely we are making fun of ourselves and how people perceive us. Har, har, har.
I've heard they turn people into occult enthusiasts.
Oh no.
That they have rituals where they try to summon entities. Highly immoral stuff. You can still buy them though.
Amazing. Amazing. Oh my god. Oh my god. Did you just make an Obi-Wan Kenobi reference? You did, didn't you?
The display rack is brimming with worn paperbacks.
Let's ask about the Muscle Man books.
Extreme...
Oh, Man from Hjelmdal. A very popular series of adventure novels. They're awfully immoral and violent books.
She looks at the book with some disdain. Amazing.
Blood and violence, scantily clad women, epic narratives, all those mystical things he encounters. They're bound to grab those with little imagination and nothing to do.
If you have no imagination, you want these imaginative books. Absolutely, ma'am. So I can either say which one should I start with, or if that doesn't sound like something I'd be interested in. Let's see. I mean, I have a lot of imagination. I'm pretty sure that it feels like Ocelot would like these. So which one should I start with?
What does it matter? They're all the same. However, the customer is always right, they say.
She's fiddling with her pendant again. Her pendant is significant somehow.
If you're a novice of the series, I'd recommend Hjelmdalaman, the man from Hjelmdal. It's supposed to be a good introduction to the series.
All right, good to know. All right, time to go talk to her properly. I had a thought and it went
Welcome
away.
To crime, romance, and biographies of famous people. My name is Plaisance.
You saw, I had a thought and it went away, and I feel bad that it went away because I didn't get a chance to click on it, and it hasn't come back. So I might walk back into that area and see if maybe I can prompt it. Okay, yeah, I might go back to the same place and see, because it looked like it was an observation. So we're going to investigate that.
welcome. And please take responsibility for the energy you bring into this space.
Okay, so she is a bit woo-woo here.
A golden pendant hangs around the woman's neck in the shape of what looks like a tiny fish head trapped in amber.
So that's connected to the fish head that we saw. So she must have placed the one that is warding off the curse, or trying to ward off the curse, on that curtain. Interesting. Okay. So of course she tells her child, don't be ridiculous, there's no curse. But then she does what she can to ward off curses. Interesting. I can ask for money. Before we go on, you seem to be well off enough. Can you give me some money? I feel there won't be an opportune moment to ask later. I don't think that's good. No, this is not the Jesus fish. We saw a fish in there's a curse warding charm hanging from the curtains to the back room that we noticed earlier. So that's what it is. So thing to ward off the evil eye, essentially, because there's a curse on this building. So I'm going to ask her about her pendant, a curious pendant you're wearing, and then narrow your eyes mysteriously. And also, so you were the owner of this store, but I think that I might be able to let my Inland Empire out to play, and maybe this lady and I can be wackadoodle weirdos together.
Oh yes, helps to have an anchor in these times.
She clutches the pendant and narrows her eyes as well. I think we might have had a moment there. So we're both looking at each other, like, do you know? So are you the owner of this store?
I am the proudest owner of our little shop of culture.
Her voice is high-pitched, as if to give it more penetration.
She has fine-tuned her voice to find the most welcoming approach for attracting new customers. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I can tell because I'm good at reading and influencing people. I can tell that she's trying to influence me. That's amazing. So your daughter's the one standing outside the store, right?
Annette, yes, my daughter. I hope she wasn't slacking off again with her nose in science fiction. Tell me, was she at her post doing her job like a proper girl?
I could say she was slacking off, but she was not slacking off. I can say it doesn't matter, but I'm going to say yes, of course. Of course she was doing her job. Slacking off with her nose in science fiction, this kid. I'm going to be friends with her. Just you wait and see. I'm going to make this kid happy somehow.
Wonderful. Did you talk to her?
Yes.
Great. On a scale of 1 to 10, how compelled were you to buy books after talking with her?
No! You know what was fascinating? When I went to Japan, Google reviews there, on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, 3 was average. If something got 3 stars, that meant that it was good. It was fine. 4 was exceptional, like better than average. 2 was below average. When I'm in the US or Canada, I don't even bother going to a place if it gets below 4 stars because because the whole entire system has been shifted. So basically what I'm getting at here is that if you are asked to review how pleased you are with the service that you receive from somebody, either in a survey or by their bosses or anything like that, if you give anything other than the absolute top score, they are going to be punished. I don't care what they did wrong. If they were not so incredibly abysmal and awful and terrible, and you know for a fact that it's not just because they were having a bad day or something like that, just give them the top score. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You will not change the things that you don't like. You will not fix small problems. Nothing will get better if you give them lower than a top score. You will just get them penalized and punished in a way that is completely unfair. Giving them like a 90% or an 80% counts as a 0. You always have to give the top percent. Give the perfect score. You should always do that. Always. If you care about other people, because no good will come of you of giving a lower score. You will not improve a system. You will not cause anybody to look at what they could do better. Especially at things like large things like hotel chains and stuff like that. Just give the top score and move along.
opinion of her daughter depends on how well she lured you into the store.
I would love to say I'm not going to grade a human being. I don't do that. She was very polite and helpful, and she deserves a 10 out of 10. And I want to get her not in trouble. You know, I'm willing to lie to make, I'm willing to do a thing like this basically if I feel like I have to protect the other person, even if the thing is garbage. You know? Like, I would love to take a stand against this. I would love to say this. Grading a human being is vile. We should not be doing this. But we'll say 10 so we can hopefully help the kid out. But yeah, if you have the time and inclination, and especially if somebody does a good job helping you, try to always say, you know, can I leave a review? Can I leave a note for your supervisor about what a great job you did? And always mention your person by name if you can. I don't know why it matters to mention them by name. I don't know why it matters at all, but it does, because stupid, inhumane human resources departments come up with bullshit like this without any actual valuation of anything. And it's just toxic and monstrous, and I hate it, and I hate it, and I hate it, and I hate it, and I don't want to grade a human being, but I'm going to give her a 10 because she's polite and helpful. And she deserves to not get in trouble with her mom. Even if it's absolutely garbage that the mother's opinion is affected by this.
My precious, her dedication brings joy to my heart. If you have children, I hope they turn out as great as my Annette.
Would she badmouth her own child if I picked another answer? Oh my god. Okay. So I can say, the way you're handling her strikes me as wrong, or Annette is quite the trooper. She's a great value add. Or I'm here to dismantle the free market and abolish child labor. Or all this pressure has made her really anxious. You know, she's been chewing her nails. No. Oh my god. Ugh. And yeah, no, Stokebox, you're absolutely correct. The rating systems do not serve a functional purpose. They will not improve service. They will not change things. Nothing will get better. It's just to punish people who don't get perfect scores. It's absolute garbage. I wish we could live in a functional society. I wish we could live in a people first society. It would be so nice. It'd be so nice. Wouldn't that be really nice? I think it'd be nice. Okay, the problem is I want to confront this woman, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to get through to her. Like, overanalyzing this because that's what I do. Like, I would like to believe that you could say this pressure makes her anxious. You know, she's been chewing her nails. And you could get through to the mom a little bit and be like, oh, I don't want to harm my child. Yeah, but this isn't a power fantasy game. I don't think this is a power fantasy game about being able to help people. Like, I wish that 4 would actually matter. I wish that I wouldn't worry about that backfiring on this poor child. Because saying the way you're handling her strikes me as wrong is just going to make her clam up and be defensive. 3 is going to make her shut you down. Like, she's just going to shut down and just hate you a lot. And 2 is just disgusting. Like, if I were doing this in real life or in a role-playing game, so that I had more control over what I said and the way that I approached this, what I would do is start off with things that were closer to 2 but didn't make my skin crawl, and then find a way to suggest that her happiness and well-being directly affects her ability to do well in her position, while also kind of trying to see if there's any humanity and kindness and softness and gentleness, like genuine love and empathy to her daughter, not for what her daughter does, but for her daughter being her daughter, and see if I could kind of pull that out a little bit. That's what I would do. Unfortunately, I don't have that level of control over this. None of these are right answers here, unless this actually would serve to get her to lower her guard. But the thing is, I think that choosing this means that you take this at face value, and so I can't do that to butter her up, basically, to soften her. So I think I'm gonna have to. I'm like, either I'm gonna have to walk away completely, realizing there's nothing I can do. I suspect I'm gonna make things worse on this poor little girl, and I'm really sorry. Because she's going to be like, that's a disgusting habit, and I'll talk to her about it, and she certainly shouldn't do things like that where you can see it. I don't like it. I'm really worried. The thing is, it's probably not going to be actual consequence. The little girl's not going to be, like, actually harmed any way that she's not already being harmed. So I could take a chance to see if I could maybe get through to her mom a little bit in a way that might make her situation slightly better, because it's going to be bad anyway. Yes. I'm worried that option 4 is going to get Annette in trouble, and I don't want to get her in trouble. She's a sweet little girl, and it's possible that standing out in the cold like that is the lesser evil. Sometimes the thing is, that it is leaked. Wow, I've spent a lot of time doing nothing in this game. The thing is, sometimes meddling in real life is the wrong thing to do. As awful and terrible and helpless as you can feel, sometimes you can't save people from bad situations. Sometimes trying to get involved will only harm them. And insisting on trying it anyway, a lot of times, is a thing you do because you want to feel like a hero. And so if you are interested in meddling, and I say this as somebody who is shockingly a meddler in real life, not just in fictional situations, before you meddle, ask yourself why. Ask yourself what the consequences of meddling are likely to be, and proceed with great care. Do not step into a situation you do not know and try to meddle, because you could get somebody very, very hurt. And you need to recognize it is not about whether you feel bad that that person is in a bad situation. It is about whether the person's situation could objectively become so much worse. If that makes sense. Like, in a perfect world, you could step in and say something and do something and things would be better. But it doesn't always work that way. And it's not always just like talking to somebody who you're trying to rescue from a bad situation like this. It can be a friend of yours or family member, somebody you know and love who is in an abusive relationship, who's kind of confiding in you about it. If you push too hard for them to leave that person, they might pull away from you and not feel like they can safely confide in you anymore. And that cuts down on their resources. As horrible as it is to accept that you can't just make things better for someone you love, sometimes all you can do is help them tread water and support them, and maybe give them little tiny nudges and basically let them know if something is not right. Be like, you deserve better than that. I'm sorry that that's happening to you. And make sure that they know that if they want to get away, they'll be safe and you won't judge them. And it's hard. It's hard because it can sometimes mean that somebody you love stays in a terrible, terrible situation for much longer when you know it's terrible. And if you could just reach over and pick them up and bring them to safety, it would be amazing. And I wish we could do that. But you can't always do that. And so that's why I say a power fantasy of a video game is one in which you can step in and save the day. You can say the thing, you can intervene, you can meddle. I love stories that let me meddle and save people. I wish I could do it more often in real life, but it's not that simple. But in games, you can sometimes get away with it. This doesn't feel like that kind of a game. Maybe it is. Maybe I've misjudged it, but it feels too sincere and too brutal in its understanding of humanity. So this is a risk. In this case, the risk of harm to the child seems relatively mild. Her situation is not unbearably horrible as is. I don't have any reason to believe her mother is beating her, for example. She's standing in the cold and she's not in school. These are not good things. But could it be worse, and could I make it worse? And these are things that I think you should always consider. You don't have the ability to predict that always, but you should always be cautious. Always be cautious in real life. And that's why I'm so cautious about saying this in a video game. You know, but okay, I'll pick it. I'll pick it. We'll see what happens. This is relatively low consequence right now. There will be much more consequential things happening later, I'm sure, with much, much higher stakes. So it's probably better to kind of get a sense for the flavor of how things go in this game at this point. So let's pick 4. All this pressure has made her really anxious. You know, she's been chewing her nails.
God. I've told her not to do that. It's such a disgusting habit. She'll get over it. Anxiety is a part of life.
A part of hers, too, clearly.
I'm going to say, I don't think she can do anything about it, because the alternative is none of your business. And that is not correct. And yeah, it's true. This is, well, we'll see. We'll see.
She can, if she has enough willpower. This is what's called growing pains. Life isn't easy. Life doesn't give breaks.
Yes, but you're her mother. You can't just overcome mental illness with willpower. You can't just not be hurt by things if you just set your mind to it. That's not how it works.
Come on, ma'am. It's obvious she can't do anything about it. You are placing an unnecessary burden on a young child.
Okay, Kim is here. I love this. And it says so much about Kim. And I love thinking of Kim watching this absolute clusterfuck of a man that he's hanging out with and being like, you know, actually fundamentally under it, he does have a good heart. I'm going to see what I can do to help him sort himself out. That makes me feel good. Like, I feel a little warmth inside just thinking about that, you know? You know, like right in the heart. I can see why people like this character so much. So I can say that I'm going to read my options out loud to you. There's only one option. There is only one option that I can choose. So we're going to read these backwards to forwards because I'm going to pick the one that I end on. So either, yeah, actually it's super all right for kids to chew their hands off. Forget I said anything. Which would be shutting down Kim, and a hateful thing to say. Or 2. That is true. And obviously the will of the market. But maybe make an exception for your daughter. Which just feels weird. Or what you're doing is wrong. Even I know that, and I usually don't know anything. I think she might shut that down. But we'll see what happens. No, so I'm not like, oh my god, how amazing that Kim is speaking up. It says something about who Kim is as a character, that he does speak up and that he pays attention to people. This is not the first time he's done this. And it is who he is. For me, the warm feeling in the heart is thinking about his relationship with Ocelot. Oh, okay. Kim is good, though. I do really like him a lot. And I think that he's a fundamentally a good person who's trying to make the world better in the ways that he can. And he doesn't have to do this. And to be fair, like, I think there's a lot of people in the world who would not speak up about something like this. And who would not even notice or think that it's wrong. I don't know. There's a big problem, especially with the conservative movement and conservative people in the US have this very like stratified understanding of families, of society, of everything. And part of why they get so upset about, like, for example, queer kids, or kids who are not following the path that they set out for them, is that they don't view kids as people. They view kids as their possessions on some level. Their kids are an extension of them. Their kids belong to them. And so they can do whatever they want to the kids because the kids are theirs. And their kids are expected to do what they want because the kids are not allowed to have their own wants or needs or feelings or anything like that. So you get people not speaking up or stepping in about child abuse or mistreatment, among other things. So yeah, we're gonna pick what you're doing is wrong. Even I know that, and I usually don't know anything.
She stands stiff and severe, silently fuming. 10 or so seconds pass without change.
I don't think that was the right answer to get through to her, unfortunately.
This is a person coming to terms with a new reality, one where they are wrong. It's not easy.
Huh. Okay. You sometimes have to trick people into thinking that they're not wrong in order to get them to change their behavior. Are we actually going to just straight up be able to tell her that it's wrong and get her to think differently?
She's looking for one, but there simply aren't any good arguments for being an asshole.
Oh no. Hold on. I need to invite her inside and apologize. She must be freezing out there.
I did not expect that. I mean, my guess would be that her mother did something similar to her and she's realizing that she's repeating a cycle. And that's what the oh no is about. That she's become her mother and wants to do different. Okay. All right. All right, game. You win.
There. I don't know what to say to you. My husband, he tries to teach me business lessons. I have what my mother called a dull mind. All this stress.
Yeah. So there's this thing I mention occasionally. The cycle of abuse. People will perpetuate it, often without realizing what they're doing. Often even when they intend not to. Because choosing to break a cycle like that is not a one and done thing. You don't just flip a switch and say, actually, never mind, I'm not going to be an abuser. It takes commitment every single day to build new habits and form new patterns in your brain to stop yourself when you find yourself going down old patterns, and take a moment and reorient yourself and consciously, actively, no matter how hard it is, turn and walk towards something else. And sometimes if you get complacent because it's gotten easier, it'll pop back up again. And you need sometimes to be nudged or reminded from the outside, sometimes not. Sometimes you can notice it yourself and take control again and monitor yourself again. It's not easy. So kudos to anyone who does break cycles like that. But it's also so important for people on the outside to intervene and step in and try to break a cycle, to wedge their way before something goes that way, you know, and say, you know, whether it's planting a seed or preventing harm or something, just anything to kind of set it askew so that the wheel no longer keeps turning as it always has. It's so powerful. And so important, because not only do you save that person, but you also save anyone down the line that they might have harmed. So I have been talking about this since I think my first 20-minute rant playing Mother 3 years ago. And I stand by it. I stand by it. Look, you'll notice over here in the corner, the little girl is reading a book inside. How sad is it that this woman's husband tries to teach her business lessons? She has a dull mind. Her mother has told her that. Presumably her husband perpetuates that. Well, you don't understand anything, Plaisance. So you're just going to have to do the best you can with your dull little woman mind. And she carries that with her, clinging to what she's told to do without necessarily understanding why. Probably because in her gut, she disagrees with some of the things that she's been told are business lessons. But it must clearly be her own fault. And then it winds up harming her daughter as well. I'm so sorry, ma'am.
It sounds like both the husband and the mother treat her the way she treats Annette.
This is, by the way, why I built my character the way I did. You're like Annette to your husband and your mother. It doesn't quite click. I think I know what they're trying to say with that. I'm not quite sure it's phrased in a way that indicates that, though, so I'm not sure. Because, like, what I would want to say is the relationship, like, basically the way that you're treating Annette is the same way that your mother and your husband are treating you, like that, you know, how that hurts you. Well, you're kind of doing the same thing and it hurts her too. Or it could be something more along the lines of this hurt Annette, and having people say that to you hurts you too, I can tell. And that's not fair. You deserve better. And I don't know if they mean one of those or both of those or neither of those, but that's the answer that I want. But I'm going to pick it because just nodding compassionately doesn't feel like quite enough.
Oh, well, my mother was horrible, of course. Absolutely perverse energies around that person. But my husband...
Yeah, absolutely. So that was what the oh no was. The oh no was definitely, that's why we got through to her. Was that she realized, oh no, I'm being like my mother. Okay, what about your husband?
My husband is completely different, of course.
I'm going to ask some questions here. Is this husband Annette's father?
Yes, my husband is a successful entrepreneur east of the river. If only he were more involved in the business we're running up here. No matter. Soon we'll both be off for Grand Couronne.
How many families do you think he has? I have a friend whose dad had multiple families. They found out. Apparently isn't entirely uncommon in his line of work. Was rather shocking and unfortunate. She's in a way better situation. Her family's, her mom and her family, they're all doing much better without him. Yeah, it's wild. One of those things that you think only happens in books, but it totally happens in real life. Grand Couronne. I don't know what that is. He's not even here. That's really sad. Let's see. I'm going to ask about Grand... The thing is, Grand Couronne is not the most important thing here. As much as I want to know about that, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. So my curiosity will go ignored for now, so that I can ask about her family and kind of apply a little pressure here. And your husband's also involved with the bookstore?
He made the initial investment. Since then, he's been what you might call a silent partner.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Super silent, almost inaudibly so.
He's just walked out of her life. Is she an only child?
Yes, I'm afraid so. A real treat she is. It would be nice if she had... No, we couldn't have afforded more children, really. Not in this economy.
Why not? I could say, of course, yes, this economy, but I'm going to ask why not.
We're quite busy people, you know, my husband and I. Quite busy. Children are a lot of work. You don't look like a father, so I don't expect you to understand.
She couldn't have raised multiple children on her own. And she's basically had to be a single mother to this girl since her husband walked out on her.
I'm sorry. I'm sure you do understand.
I'm gonna say she told me she doesn't go to school anymore.
She's been too busy helping me here. So she studied at home this trimester. This is a temporary solution, of course. I assure you, I of all people understand the importance of education. She will be back in school the moment the store takes off.
And when the store will take off, and her husband will say, yes, good, wonderful, and then we've got money, and then they'll go on this grand vacation, and everything will be fine.
And hell freezes over? Never mind. It's not a good topic to get into.
Yes, my husband is a successful entrepreneur east of the river.
I'm
If
gonna
only he were more
ask about
involved
Grand
in the
Coron.
business. It's a proper place to live. One of the most peaceful neighborhoods east of Jamrock. You may know it for its massive housing projects.
Housing projects and Jamrock? Like, housing projects are usually not lovely and peaceful parts of town. My dad grew up in the projects in Brooklyn, and it's affordable housing for people who can be in very desperate situations sometimes and does not always have the services that it needs. You know, yes, things are sad and complicated. I think that is true. Jamrock is better than Martinez and Coal City. Okay. I guess you did say east of Jamrock. I don't know. I'm having a really hard time holding on to the geography is eluding me a bit. Coal City is the worst. We got that.
Most of the buildings are empty at the moment. It's a great opportunity to get ahead of the crowds. Better times ahead for sure.
Okay.
He made the initial investment.
Super silent, almost inaudibly so.
Gonna say she an only
Yes,
child.
I'm afraid
of course,
so.
yes, this economy.
Exactly.
Okay, I think that's it. Okay, I can't do anything more with this right now. Gonna go. All right, I had something else in mind.
The woman looks aloof. Her features much softer. Occasionally she glances at her daughter's silhouette.
Okay. All right. Farewell for now, book peddler. Sorry. I gotta talk to this child, and then I'm gonna go see what's up here.
I'm sorry, sir. I can't talk right now. I'm very busy with my homework. I have so much homework now.
You just can't win.
Yeah, but it's okay for a kid to be doing homework.
Out of the rain and into the gutter.
What are you doing now?
Math. It's really difficult. Like, really. They say you need it to get rich. Better than standing outside in the cold, I guess.
She looks into her notebook with trepidation.
Oh, I found something while you were away.
What is it?
I thought this would fit you. Like, thanks for helping out. Not me. The city, I mean. Like a detective does.
She gives you a hat. Almost exactly like the one Dick Mullen wears on the covers. Oh my god. I'm gonna ask her a detective hat?
Yes, just like the one Dick Mullen wears all the time. You'll look way more serious with that. Right, I have to get back to my homework now, before Mum notices. Man, this is hard.
She looks back at the infernal scribblings under her nose. So you can say, okay, bye. See you around, Annette. Okay. Let's take a look at this hat, shall we? Let's take out my briefcase. Oh my god, Dick Mullen's hat. If anything, this wide-rimmed hat looks even better than the hat Dick Mullen wears. Dick Mullen is stupid and not even real. You're real. Your brain is real. Your real brain is inside the hat. Your brain tells you this. Encyclopedia, book smart. I'm putting my hat on. Thank you very much. Yes. Yes. I have a hat. I'm so excited. This is a cool hat. This is my hero hat given to me by a little girl. It doesn't get any better than that. Okay, now so there we go. Here's a thing I've noticed. What is this? Everyone knows the most interesting thing about fascists was their magic was interesting. Okay. There was a thing around here that he noticed as we walked over towards this, you know? There was a purple thing, and I don't see it. Was that? I thought it was a purple thing. Hi, all hail Mogambo. Oh, was it blue? Okay, I thought it was purple. Well, I guess maybe that was it then, because I was walking in that direction. Okay. I am enjoying this game immensely. Did I ask her about the supernatural books? No, that's a good question. I don't know that I did. Let's do this quickly. Oh, I did? I don't know that I did.
This bookstore is
No, I
not
didn't.
strictly about...
Sir, please, no browsing in that shelf. That wisdom is not for free.
She narrows her eyes. Oh, that's really sad.
I can't have you end up, like, opening a police store next door and stealing my customers. Oh no!
I like to think, I don't know, I don't actually know if the things that she says change now that we've had a moment. If she has different dialogue, I hope so. I'm going to choose to believe it even if it's not true. With her like being kind of silly. Because this is kind of a silly thing to say. And she kind of knows it's silly. I like that. Okay. I think I've asked her about all of the different things that there are to ask about. The biographies, the detective novels, the games, the barbarian books. I think that's everything. I've saved her daughter from the cold, got myself a totally sweet hat, and a belief in the righteousness of the world. This is actually going to be a game in which, to some degree, I can get wish fulfillment, the power fantasy of actually being able to make things better for people. Maybe so. I'm glad I wound up taking that risk after all. It was a very good way of testing that out, because I had just assumed that this is not that kind of a story. This is not that kind of a game. If you're playing, I know I give them a lot of trouble. If you're playing a BioWare game and there seems to be the good meddling option, it's usually safe. Sometimes it might not be, just to keep you on your toes. Nuance is not their greatest strength a lot of times. Some of their writers are good at it, but a lot of them aren't. But aside from things that do feel like they're wish fulfillment games, I generally... I don't know if I'm somehow more cynical than this game is. Or if I approach things with greater caution and they feel that you should be allowed and able to not... What is that? Not have to... Oh, that's the main menu. Oh, and a question mark. I didn't even see that there before. Sorry. I got distracted by that. Has that always been there? I know Disco Elysium just downloaded an update right before we streamed. So maybe that's part of the update. No. The thing is, I can see kind of taking the clown shoes answers to things because the world is a mess and your character is a mess and everything is a mess, so you might as well be wacky. But my take on this game, I think, is going to be, you know, everything is sad and complicated, so you might as well do what you can to try to make it a little less sad. See, the thing is, I didn't feel like any of her engagement with me there had anything to do with me being a cop. She didn't show any deference to me for being a cop. She showed me some deference for being a customer. But she hasn't ever been like, oh, well, sir, oh gosh, authority figure. Hi, Splinch, thank you. I'm sorry, my cup is empty. You redeemed hydrate, and I cannot drink water, and I should be shutting down. I'm well over, but this has been a very interesting game, and I'm still kind of unpacking a little bit. I do think that your character being a cop could change the way you interact with the world, but you don't really look like a cop or come across as an authority figure, even if you do have the jacket with the patches on it. And so some people will treat you with deference and some people will treat you with distrust. I didn't feel like that was the case with her. Like what we just had there, I think, was more that you got through to her. And it may very well be that, for example, she's more likely to listen to a man asserting something than she would another woman asserting something. Just hearing how she talks about her husband and how she talks about herself and some of the... I might be projecting a little bit of my understanding of like real world things, yeah. I haven't gotten any really heavy sense of stakes yet. It's very interesting. I don't know. I didn't expect, like, I was hoping that there would be a way to get through to her, but then as we talked to her, I felt like she was not going to be open. Like, somebody has to be open, and you can't know what their openness is without being able to kind of prod at it a little bit, which is why my tendency in this game or rather my tendency in things in general is to prod a little bit until I can get the full scope of the thing and try to shift the person to be more open, and then try to take that moment of opportunity that I've opened up. You can't do that in a game like this because, I mean, they can only write... There's extraordinarily detailed. There's so much you can do, and you can essentially... Like, that is what a lot of these conversations that I've had that have gone in directions that I really liked. That's how they went. They've kind of let you sort of soften the person up, get an angle, get to understand them, find a moment where you can make a connection, and then there's that opening that you can take to connect with the person on some level. So they do have that. I think I'm still kind of calibrating myself, but it is really nice to see that you can. They've decided, I think, to err a little bit on feeling like you can make a difference that you might not have been able to make in the real world. But you might also have, because you would have been able to pick up on that nuance, and you might have been able to push a bit more to get that openness there. So here, I think maybe they've decided to make it a little easier to get it. I don't know. But I like it. And I do like the fact that the way that I'm getting through to these people makes sense to me. I mean, I'm not an expert in human psychology by any stretch, but I'm pretty good with people. I'm pretty good at getting people to open up, and I'm pretty good at getting a read on people. I'm pretty good at piecing things together and making decent guesses about who they are and how they tick as a person, as Lauren. And I appreciate that the things that they've been doing with characters in this game have made a lot of sense to me. There will probably be points where I'm not quite sure why a person did something, or where it feels a little strange, because that can happen sometimes. Sometimes people are just like that, and sometimes it may be that they're writers and I have slightly different ways of looking at things. But so far, I think for the most part, everything that's happened with taking into consideration the filter of how much I don't know and don't understand about the world and the setting and the characters and everything so far, since I'm still very early on, despite having played this game for over a month. I feel like it makes sense that the characters are well thought through. You don't just succeed at things because it's a game and therefore you should be the hero all the time. But you also don't just fail at things because the world is hard and brutal. And I feel like a lot of games that are more power fantasy-ish or more grimdarky fall into one of those two camps, you know? Good night, Samovar. You know what I mean? And I was worried that the game would be the latter. I've never thought the game would be the former, and I'm glad it's not, honestly. I actually don't think it's been good for the psychology of gamers as a whole to have too many games in which they're told that they're the hero and everything they do is great, and no matter what things that they do in a game, they're wonderful, they're always right, the customer's always right. I think that's really not been great. And I could go off on what I think are some of the real world repercussions of that. But also I don't know, I feel like it's one thing if you're wanting to do wish fulfillment. It's just like when you choose to read a romance novel, to bring this back around, and you know that you're going to have a happy ever after ending, and that's something that you're choosing to engage with, you're picking it up, wanting that, knowing that that's going to be good for you. That the people who read romance novels don't have the delusion that that's how all stories are going to turn out, or how their story is necessarily going to turn out. It's a story that they're choosing to engage with. I think sometimes gamers have a harder time making that distinction. Well, no, I'm talking about romance novels. I'm not talking about romantic stories. I'm talking about romance novels as a genre, as a category, with expectations and rules and like the things that the romance writers of America and their equivalents write. Not even pulpy romance novels, just romance novels. Romance novels are a thing. Some of them can be quite literary and beautiful, but they're still romance novels. They're shelved as romance, published by romance publishers. Like, I don't think that we can just across the board, like, condemn them as being bad. But the happy ever after is an essential requirement in them. I was explaining this to folks earlier when we got to this bookstore, actually, that if you have something from a romance imprint, I think there is one romance imprint that doesn't do happily ever afters, but otherwise, no matter how dark or serious or heavy or bad things can get, because depending on the imprint, some of them can be a lot more intense, some of them can have a lot more like morally questionable or really heavy stuff in them, but they all have to have a happy ending, unless it's like, I think like the one, I think does Harlequin have an imprint that is the one not happily ever after? I feel like there is one out there that is, and I don't remember what the publisher is, but I feel like it exists. But yeah, that's a tangent. I like books. I'm not a romance reader in general, but I will defend the genre as a popular fiction writer in another genre. I will defend that. That is an important question, Chrono. That is a very important question. Okay. That's probably more comfortable if she's not actively engaged with romance a lot. Probably romantic fantasy is a better fit. I would hesitate. I don't think I could live up to the expectations of romance writers because I'm not enough in the romance world. But romantic fantasy gives you a lot more flexibility and is a world that I'm much more familiar with. Yeah, no, I really do. When I started playing Disco Elysium, I wasn't sure how long I was going to be able to stick with it because I was afraid that it was going to be a bit grimdark. I was afraid it was going to be cynical and dark, and I had to kind of, I took a risk, and people had told me that's probably not going to be the case. That there is goodness and heart in it, and it's not a grimdark game. But knowing as little as I knew going into it, that's why we call our character Ocelot, because he looks like Revolver Ocelot, and I knew nothing else about it. Yeah, I started playing Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door and Disco Elysium at the same time, intending to contrast them and to help me get through the darkness and heaviness potentially in Disco Elysium with what I expected would be a very like sweet and happy cute game on the other side, because I'd played the original Paper Mario and found it incredibly charming, Um, I am now at the point where I'm questioning whether one is too mean-spirited for me to continue playing it. And it is not Disco Elysium, which has just proven to me that it does in fact have a heart of gold. The thing is, what we're doing right now is I'm learning to trust that the game has this heart of gold. I didn't know that going into it, so I initially had some concerns about Kim not being who or what he presented himself to be, because I was like, I don't know if I can put my love in him, because what if this game is grimdark and wants to do a gotcha? And there have been a few things where I'm like, I don't know, and then they show this goodness and kindness, and then this woman and her daughter, and I'm thinking it's going to be taking a perfectly reasonable and realistic, if cynical, route, and instead the game is like, no, you can make a difference. There is a heart of gold under here, and a belief that you can make a difference, and wanting to give you opportunities to make a difference, which I think can also help you feel like maybe it's worth taking chances to try to make a difference in the real world as well. And that's beautiful. But I needed to learn that about this game. I needed to learn that I can trust it, because there's been so many stories. I started off as a person, being a person who was very aware. I was simultaneously, sorry, I clicked on a thing. I was simultaneously very sheltered and privileged, and yet also aware on some level, even if not personally. I was aware of a lot of the existence of pain and suffering in the world, and it bothered me as a hypothetical thing, and that my life was free of a lot of the concerns that people have to worry about. It was not perfect. There were problems, but by and large there were a lot of things that I was sheltered from. But I've always had, I'd like to think, a decent amount of concern and compassion for my fellow humans, even if I've had to learn a lot about people and put aside a lot of really close-minded and hurtful mindsets that I inherited growing up. Suffice to say, my father and I do not have the same politics. But I always believed that you could make a difference. And the world has bit by bit taught me that you can't always make a difference. Which is fine. Like, it's fair. Genuinely, you cannot always make a difference, and it is important to know. And the pragmatic side of that is being able to recognize when trying to make a difference might make things worse. As I was saying earlier, like, you do have to be careful as somebody who wants to stick your nose into people's business and try to help things. Make sure you're doing it in a way that is careful and more likely to help and not likely to cause harm, and that you're not being motivated by your need to feel like a hero. But especially, I think, with stories and art like this, there's just so much damn cynicism in this world. And there's such an idea that in order to be mature and grown up and serious, you have to be dark and cynical. Grown-ups don't have hope. Hope is for babies. And while I've worked really hard to not let that rule me in real life, I don't have a lot of trust in works of fiction necessarily, especially when they immediately present themselves with as much like grotesque darkness as this game's initial, like the introduction and the superficial, I guess superficial isn't the right word, but the surface level of it. It is an ugly, decaying, disgusting, dirty, falling apart world. And I assumed that it would be like other stories that are like that. But I do think it has a heart of gold in there, and so I have learned to trust it. It has taught me to trust it. That it perhaps may be more optimistic than I am, and I could use that, and I could see why that, because I don't think of myself as the most pessimistic person when it comes to humanity and our ability to do things to make a difference, you know. But I can see how a lot of people could find this as an injection of hope and a rallying cry to do some good in the world. When Undertale came out, it made a lot of people think about themselves differently. And I think it was what a lot of people needed at the time. And it gave people a lot. It was like an infusion of kindness and love and hope. Like a shot straight to the heart. It made it okay to be kind and gentle and soft and silly. It normalized kindness. And that was beautiful and powerful. And so very needed by so many people. It was like a cure against so much of the toxicity that has run rampant for years. But in the time since then, we've had a lot of really dark and terrible things happen in the real world that have been very hard on a lot of people. And so I think perhaps Disco Elysium in some ways is trying to do the same thing. But it's doing it, it's in a different way. It's more like by having some of the darkness and grittiness and pain and sorrow of the real world, that kind of makes the sweetness go down easier. Perhaps it even if you're cynical, it helps you lower your guard so that its hope can get through to you. That's how it gets that openness inside of you. Yeah, a light surrounded by darkness. That's my favorite thing in stories. I think that in real life it would be wonderful if people could just have happy times all the time. Although if you were always happy, would you know that you were ever happy? Questions. Pointless things perhaps to worry about. But when it comes to stories, I have a hard time really connecting with things that are light all the way through. But I don't like things that are dark for darkness' sake. And I cannot abide things that are dark without a glimmer of hope. So the stories that I read, the stories that I write, everything that I create is about light shining through darkness. That is what I need in the world. So interesting. Perhaps this is why people love Disco Elysium the way that they do. Perhaps this is why it has the hold that it does on so many people. And we'll find out. We're still very, very early in the game. We have barely even scratched the surface. Super wholesome stuff doesn't turn me off. It just sometimes doesn't have a thing for me to hold on to. For whatever reason, I need something dark in a story to really hold on to it. Yeah. In case anyone is like, how slow are you at this game? I'm so slow. Yeah, Wandersong starts off as a super wholesome jaunt, and then suddenly, like, a streak of darkness just tears through it, and I was like, ooh, I'm on board. If you haven't played Wandersong, by the way, it is an absolutely beautiful game. You can get past the initial silly, goofy happiness. There is really good heart in there. There is really good stuff in there. There are some dark and hard and beautiful character moments in it. I haven't played Chicory yet. Wandersong's music, I don't think Toby Fox did any music for Wandersong. I know the singer is my friend John Robert Matz. Chicory is the team behind Wandersong and the composer of Celeste. So, that's pretty great. I need to play that at some point. Alright, well I should probably shut down. I will give you guys some cat cam first. Would you like a little bit more cat cam? Here. Let's have cat cam. Here you go. It's Miss Sophie. Hello, baby. Again, Sophie's gotcha day was yesterday. Oh, look at that great big kitty on. So 3 years with Miss Sophie. And she is a good baby. I'm so glad she's been coming into streams this week. I would love to have more Sophie on streams. It's fun. I can cuddle her. That way you guys get to know her the way you got to know Nox, which was wonderful. All right. Sophie's watching the game, by the way. Like, look at this. Can you see this? Did you see her little head poke up when she saw that? She's following the cursor. Isn't that adorable? Isn't she a cutie? This is Sophie. She's my baby girl. You gonna get it? She loves to hunt. She has the biggest play drive I've ever met in a cat. It's really cute and also kind of ridiculous. It's hard to keep up with. She's 4 years old. You'd think she'd be tiring out, but no, she's got play all the time. I'd like to launch hair ties. Maybe we'll just do a chill stream. I want to do a cooking stream at some point. And if so, I'll be in the living room. My roommate is actually potentially going to go out of town at the end of next month, which would make it easier because then I wouldn't feel like I was imposing on her. Maybe we could do a cooking stream at then, and then you can see, I can maybe see if I can get Sophie to do her hair tie tricks for you. She's a goof. She's a goof. All right, folks. I should probably shut down. It is after 11 p.m. and my health has been a bit better the past couple of days, so I don't know if it's up and down or if I've suddenly had a breakthrough or what. I'll keep you all posted. But yeah, if you like what you see here, please give me a follow. I play this game every Thursday, just like this. Usually I would be over by now, but I will apparently go over if I'm interested enough. So yeah, thank you so much, Splinch and some of the others that I haven't seen around here before. Welcome. And if you want to keep in touch, so we have a Discord where you can hang out and talk spoilers with people who aren't me. Join the stream spoilers channel. There's a thread specifically for Disco Elysium. It's where the peanut gallery happens while I'm playing live. And then you can also follow me on social media if you want to see cat photos or whatever shenanigans I'm up to. Yeah, I've been enjoying this game a lot and I'm looking forward to next week. I will try to get this up on YouTube as soon as possible. I guess I better download it since we had that oh yeah, I can only imagine spoiler chat's been crazy. Thank you all so much. Oh my god, Sophie is pawing at the screen. All right, I think it's time for me to go to bed. Yes, please feel free to join the spoiler channel. Take care of yourselves, all right? Take care of yourselves and take a little bit of the hope and the belief in our ability to change the world that we have been talking about and seeing here, and carry that in some small way into your life. Even if in no other ways, even just to give yourself kindness. That also counts. All right, good night. Good night, my friends. I will see you next week. Bye.